Radeon here. Okay, back with another live stream, and I finally did it. I finally got a server out, and you can just see the back end of it. Somehow that moved since I set it a while ago, and so I'm going to open it up. Let me check my audio before I end up forgetting up here. So let's see. Can't even think which mouse to use. So I see my picture, but I got to make sure I'm getting audio on my stream. And it's turned up very loud. I can't really hear it. It's turned down in the, no, it's not. I'll make sure I don't have some sort of problem with it. Maybe I usually have it up all the way. I don't see why I would. Okay. Let me switch to the other mic. I don't think there's a problem because the signals all look good on here. I was going to do that anyway. Okay, now I'm on the wireless. That was the SM58. It wasn't loud. I wonder if I misadjusted the... Sorry, having physical and technical disabilities here. Okay. Now I am back on the SM58. Okay. Is it back to normal? I quit talking, didn't I? I was up there turning it down because it was too loud. my mixer was bumped, or else I checked it a while ago and I thought. Yeah. Okay, now back to this is important. I know it's a pain, but this is very, you just can't go with bad audio, so. Okay, now back to this is important. I know it's a pain, but this is very good. Okay, well now I can, everything's working, both mics. Now I can continue on. All right, this is why you need you need a master control operator. That's what I'll say. I can't remember what they call the guy doing the switching and the director. You need somebody doing the switching, so not somebody telling everybody else what to do. So you need a master control operator, which is not what they have in the studio. I actually used to have a job as a master control operator at a small TV station in Dallas, and I set up. It actually had it up. They had it all set up at the TV tower, like 2 stories off the ground. They had built a room. Well, it's a room where in the transmitter room, and so they just put a couple of racks in there and put the switcher and stuff in there, and it wasn't a fancy Grass Valley switcher or anything like that. They had that at the studio, but in there they had a straight line switcher with just however many buttons we had of VTRs, and you take a tape and put it in and switch it, and they had one for a live feed because they did a show every night live. I really enjoyed that. I learned a lot about stuff that way. But anyway, this is easier than that, I think. But you can also get turned around. So keep debating. My laptop seems to not like running Firefox more than ever now, and it gets overheated and the fan runs so loud it drives me crazy, and I'm afraid it's gonna lock it up or something, and it is my web server too, so I don't want anything to happen with it. So I'm like, should I close Firefox or should I leave it? And I need to see, well, I like to have a machine running with and a laptop's the perfect thing because it's got its own screen, and I have it always playing the video, and then every once in a while I check the audio because sometimes when I can look at the meters in OBS Studio whenever I have that screen up anyway to see that the audio's working, but the video, well, I mean, there's a preview in the video too, but anyway, the live stream is what's important, you know. That's how you really know everything's working, because it could be show to be working here and not there, but I can't play that audio the whole time. It just echoes back in the mic and drives me crazy. Even if I just turn it way down, it still makes me forget what I was fixing to say, you know. So let me get over here and let's see, I don't need the SM58 anymore. So I'm gonna get over here and open this server up, and no matter what I plan ahead, I see something different once I get once I get going. I had originally kind of thought I might, yeah, let's turn that whole thing. There we go. Then I can lean it the way I want to. There we go. This one, I was just going to go to one camera, and I thought, well, you can't see hardly anything. I'm going to leave that one like that for now and get this open. And once I get this open, then I will move some cameras around to what I'm trying to show. Yeah, I haven't been in here. Haven't went in here. It's been hiding under the bed, waiting for me to come back for her. And I haven't been in here. And well, from what I saw the other day, I bought this thing 10 months ago, and so you know I messed with it for a few weeks, and then I haven't felt up to getting it out and messing with it, but I really want to, because that machine I'm streaming from is a quad core with 4 gig of RAM, and it really needs to be reformatted. Well, it needs to be updated. I'm on Fedora 28, and Fedora 32 just came out, and also it's not running so good anymore. So I need to just reformat it. There's the instructions that come in server lids. Oh, if I would look at something, I know where. I've got a screen on that camera there, and guess I'm really just getting confused because the two views, you know. But well, sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not that good. But I can't hold this up and switch all at the same time. Ow, there's something sharp on that. Yeah. Okay, so now let me get this. First, I'll just just look around. You get on the. Well, let's leave it as it is, so that. I'm trying to figure out which one's which now. Which one is which? Well, let me pick this one up, then I'll know for sure. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so this one, yeah, that's going to be the best way to do that. Oh, I can spin this thing back around, so now I don't have to look over my left shoulder. So that's one reason why I wanted to buy a real camera, a regular camera. There we go. Okay, so I've only got. This is what I was wanting to see. The extra power connector. 1, 2, I can't count it. I wonder if this will get in there at it. Let's see if we can show it that way. Oh, we could probably do it. No, that's the perfect height. There we go. I think that'll work. So I'll use that endoscope. That was my plan. Before we do that, let's go back to what I was saying. That I didn't realize I had one of them already in use. That's for going up to the front for the hard drives. That's the I heard Martin say. I was watching Morton's videos, the guy who taught me everything I know about servers, just about everything. I've watched some other guys too, and one girl, but well, she was doing software. She's really smart, but called herself server admin girl or something. I don't think she's made a new video in 3 years or more. But she talks so fast I couldn't follow her. And she was doing everything in the command line too. She's that sysadmin person, you know. And she went so fast I couldn't follow her. And I thought, well, I'll watch it later. And I just kind of got to quit watching, you know. Never did really watch I don't think I ever watched one of her whole video. But here's where the SD card goes, right there, where the shiny spot is. And I don't. The first thing I want to do, I mean, I could take this cover off and stuff, but oh, I forgot I was still on dual camera mode. It's probably better. I like to stay on double camera mode because in a situation like this, because see, when I do a horrible camera angle, like whenever the legs are all tangled up for this tripod. So when I do something terrible like that, at least you can look over at the other side and not lose your mind. Throw stuff at your computer and break it or something. But that was good. I've never used it before like that. I mean, I could hold the thing. I don't want to try to take it off the tripod because this right here, I've got my one of my trusty rubber bands holding the. See the power. I need the power connector plugged in. Well, it's not just power; it's USB out. It's giving power to the camera so it won't run down. It's also sending a signal out to the computer. The USB cable is. I bought a long 15-foot one for that. And so that, you know, in order to keep it from falling out, coming out, breaking the connector on the camera, I did that. You still got to be careful, but so I can't really take it off the tripod because then it would just yank it out of there in an instant, you know. And plus, it's those small cameras that are that small, they're so awkward for me to handle. I just do terrible with them. But I do have, well, I'll go on about my camera setup. I've been setting up all day long. You know, finally at 6:16, I'm actually making the video I plan on making today. Okay, so 4K camera. That gives overall view of the computer. That'll be good. That shows a little more. I try not to spend forever re-aiming everything because okay, now let's try try that and the endoscope. There we go. That's right, pointed right at it. Now let's see if I can count the I think it's 10 pin, but I really do need to something to help me see, you know, count. I think I can count it like this, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Okay. And this other one is plugged in, going to the front. So I didn't realize that's how you got power to the hard drives. You can actually put in it's got 8 in there, that's the max, except for there is a place in the front, but it doesn't have the hardware. And maybe I'll think of the word of this device here that you in a little bit. But anyway, I was thinking that was where I was going to need to plug in my video. I want to get a video card for this. These servers are actually made to be able to put video cards in them. I was thinking about getting a server. I've seen the servers get pretty powerful. Servers get cheap ever since, you know, like around 2000. I started noticing that, but they just had abysmal, you know, video in them. And I thought about trying to, you know, being able to put a video card in one, but everything I saw, it was just either didn't work or it's too hard. You had to really know more than I knew back then, about 20 years ago. But now in the last 5 years, I've started seeing videos and stuff on YouTube, and I'm getting this cover off, the one that, well, it's not just a cover. See, it has the, I guess this is a picture. This is the riser card for the Go ahead and get. Yeah, there's not any more power connectors in there. I think I will. I'm gonna lay it over. Yeah, I'll lay it over here, I guess. Well, I was gonna show the riser card. So I don't see any more connectors, power connectors. Yeah, there's no more room for any more, I don't think. Yeah. So let's go back to our main camera, and this time I guess I'll just use it by itself and try to be careful so that it'll be a full screen picture where I know sometimes, like, well, for me anyway, I can't see, you know, with the two cameras like that, they get too small. Both of them are just too small for me to really see what I'm trying to show for myself, you know. So might be other people that have that problem. Okay, so this time I won't fold the legs up as much as I did. Okay, yeah, it gets a lot of reflection, doesn't it? So there's where the SD card goes. I've booted it to that on Fedora 28. And for some reason the USB is way over here. You can boot a USB stick too. And then of course there's two in the back, I think. And I think those two are USBs. No, those are Ethernet. Okay, I think those two are Ethernet, and that one's ILO. I think there's two more. ILO's one of them, and then I think there's 4 Ethernets on there. And now these are the data cables going up to the hard drives. They're SCSI hard drives. And I was talking about over here. This is our cable that I counted up. 10 pin connector. Has another one right beside it, and it's already in use. So I'm glad I looked at that, because I thought there was 2. From my previous videos, I thought there were 2 open ones. But I didn't ever get in and show them like I'm doing now. And so then there's a... Oh, I think that's for a... Probably I might have to get endoscope on that, but I think that's a... data cable for could be audio. I need to get magnifying glass on it. There's 2 SATA cables. Oh, but these front, basically you can also put SATA hard drives in there too. But so you could have you can, you know, they can come with a or you can get a DVD drive for them. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't use them hardly at all anymore. I've got other machines with that. But this is a, I didn't ever say, this is a HP Hewlett-Packard DL380 G7. It's probably on the front of it somewhere. Oh, and while I'm at it, the riser cards allows you to put, that side has 2, I think the writing is upside down, X4 I think. Let's see if we can do it this way. If I had it in the light, then it could be red. I wonder if that can be read like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you got too much light until you want it, and then you can't see anything. I don't doubt you can read that. Because I finally remembered to look at the screen on the camera instead of looking over my shoulder. But anyway, there's 2 there. But the one you put the video card in would be this one here. And I remember, well, I read them off and stuff in one of my previous videos, but they're X8//X18 or / whichever, but I think it's forward written on there. I'll look and make sure which. That's one thing I think, and I looked in the manual over and over and over. I believe what that actually means. Nearly when you say something / something, that means either or, you know. And so that's what I think it is it'll handle 8X PCIe or 16X, and the other is 2 or 4, I think. So let's put this down over here. This is what the back end of it looks like. That's the top part. This is the riser card, and you can have 2 of them in there, but it only came with 1. And you can move. I'll probably end up moving that one, unless I already did it, to the side away from the power supplies, so that you know, there's room for the card. But I'm going to try and decide for sure what kind of card I want. Here's all the connectors. That's where those cables come around from that other 10 pin that's filled in. And all the 8 hard drives. And then the data, that's the power, and then the data goes around here. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fans. Because it does have has 2 CPUs under that cover there. There's 6 cores, so it's got 12 hardware cores and 24 with hyperthreading. And thought it was going to be able to read that, but it doesn't look like it was all the light, the way the light is in here. That's where the badge is on it. Hard drives. There's the troubleshooting center, and VGA on the front. 2 USBs. One of the things what I'm planning on doing is basically setting it up like a excuse me. It was dusty and I had to clean it off, so I got in the dust. But and that's the RAID card battery. It goes around here. Well, this one's got the RAID. He was showing a 1U. This is a 2U server, 2U rack, 2 rack spaces. There's the RAID card right there, and this has a backup battery. And so you won't lose. Well, so you won't lose cache. If the power goes out, the cache will be right into a drive. The cache will it'll save it up to. I think this one's a gigabyte, if I remember right. But 2 power supplies at 470 watts, I think, or 460. And anyway, it's pretty cool. I paid with $30-something shipping. It was just under $300 for it 10 months ago, and I just saw the exact same model on a different seller for $250, free shipping. I was like, oh. But you know, you shouldn't reshop, because that's always going to happen to you at some point. And I've looked at it I don't know how many times, and it was so tempting. Oh, I could get it. I could get that one too. I was like, I don't need another one. I haven't even got this one up and going. And you can't, you know, they are going to be. I think. Oh, I'll set it up probably as a desktop, and only run it in the daytime, because it is going to be. It's not very loud as servers go at all, but you know, there's going to be times when it ramps up for certain reasons, and I was trying to see if I could read the 460. I said the wrong numbers. 460 watt power supply. And that guy, the seller I bought it from, is not a guy, it's a company. They had pictures of 750 watt power supplies. But I did look up the specs, download manuals and stuff, and I saw that I figured, well, it may or may not come with those. But anyway, it makes pretty good noises, you know, at certain times when you're booting it up and stuff. Sounds like something airplane's fixing to take off, but then it quietens down, and it's really not any louder than some my older desktops down under there. Those 2 down there. Well, and that one has the worst, most horrible sounding CPU fan in it. And when it gets warm and it starts running fast, that server at full blast would bother me less, even though it's louder than that thing. It's just that whine it makes. Oh, there's a sticker, but I don't know if I don't know what's on it. You know, there's some information you don't want to share on some of those stickers. But Let me put this camera down again. Whoops. Tried to fold the legs out while I was moving, and that didn't work out so good. Now, let me, what am I going to do? I think I want to show something else on the, oh yeah, the, well, I wanted to see what that little connector was. I think it's going to be audio for the CD, but it might be, yeah, or power. That might be power. Let me look and see. Switch to that endoscope. It's a little too blurry. I wanted to see what the, yeah, that's the ILO network settings sticker on this side there. There's also that information on a tag in the front. Yeah, that would be the default password. That's what I was thinking, it might be something like that. So let me see if I can get this. I know I can get that closer. That's what it needs to do to focus. That might be better. Let's see if I can see it on the preview. All I can see, J72. It's been so long since I've messed with that style of connector. I can't remember. Get my magnifying glass off. I thought that, yeah, now I can read the words on the, still, yeah, J72 is all it says. It doesn't have any words, just numbers. I can't remember if that's audio or power for the, it's going to be for the, if you need it for the CD-ROM or DVD. It may be that, it may be backplane, yeah, backplane. That's what I was trying to say up in the front. Let me turn the other camera on again. I wanted to make sure, I was pretty sure that I remembered checking that, and that this is the backplane for the hard drives, and if there was any way to hook up, is they call it big backup drive or something that does come, you can, it's an option, was an option. Of course they don't make or sell these anymore, but these were made in around about 2010. But the big backup drive would I saw this this locker thing, and I thought, is that got a hard DVD in it? But no, it's just a blank, I think, on the front cover. Let's see. Let's get the camera and show what I'm talking about, I guess. So this is made to hold. Yeah, okay, it's a clip. So when you slid the, when you slid the DVD drive, it's a real thin one that would go in there. It would lock into that. But below there, you can put another drive. It's supposed to be for, these are 1.46 gigabyte drives, and they're something, I don't remember how much. I think it makes a little over a terabyte altogether. 1 and something terabytes, but it's dark there, but that's where the DVD would be if you had one. I don't need one, like I said. So yeah, it's got 64 gig of RAM, 2.53 gigahertz processors, 6 cores, 2 of them, and with the hyper-threading, it shows up as 24 cores in the hardware testing apps I used to check it out before, previous videos. So yeah, let's put the deal back in it. Let's try to get down as close as we can there. Just trying to. There we go. Let when you put the, I guess it's easier with one. If I had two, I'd really have to be careful. The back plane plugs in as you slide this down, so you got to be careful when you put it in. I mean, the riser card does. Let's see. Yeah, the way this is put in, the connector for the, I don't know if you can see it, but the connector, there's the connector that's going down into the motherboard. But when you slide this in, the connector for your, that would be the one you'd put your video card in, is going to be right on top of here. And the ones I'm looking at are going to be too thick to fit in there. So I'll move this over. I suppose I could move it over now. That way I know for sure it's going to happen without any problems. Let's see, I think it's only got one screw, this one here. I actually watched a video where a guy did that the other day. Well, that's tight. So I may have to get a screwdriver out. Yeah, there's only one. I really am going to have to get something out. Let me get my screwdriver out. Got stuff on top of my little, got a little toolbox under here, under this bottom, under this card, but I got to get to it to use it. Okay, so well, let's just try the screwdriver first. I don't really want to clamp pliers down on that plastic handle. It's not going to reach. Some things are sharp in there. I can't believe that that is on there that tight. I'm afraid that somebody was going to come along with a... I mean, these things aren't mounted in the back of your pickup truck, you know, bouncing down the road going four-wheeling. They're in a rack. There you go. Maybe some things, you know, it's just the way they're made. They get. Let's see what else. There we go. I wasn't sure it was going to come out. So in order to, oh, okay, you put it over here on the other side. Oh, and it just slides right in this little hook right here. And let me sit down where I can get it the same level as it so I can see it. And yeah, there's two. There's one up high and one down low. We can get a better look at it now. So there's the two. I was starting to put it back in there, and then I remember now I can't see none of that. Oh, they're upside down. Yeah, slot 3 and 6, PCI Express 4, X4. Slot 2 and 5, PCI Express X4. Okay. Slot 1 through 4, PCI Express X8. 1 through 4. There's primary and secondary slots. The primaries would be the ones. No, wait. I'll go down there and look on the board first before I say that. 1 through 4. It's oh, not 1 through 4. 1/4, 1 and 4, I believe. Okay, 3 and 6, 2 and 5, 1 and 4. Okay. So, and then on the other side with the wide slot, if I can, it's slot 1 and 4, PCI Express S8, X8. Yeah, that is what Martin was saying. So this doesn't do X16, but the card I'm looking at, it's I believe what it says on there, I'll show it here in a minute. It says has an X16 slot, but it's only actually using 8. So, which I believe that's got to do with how many pins are in the connector. Not sure. Looks like there might be more in there than that. But yeah, let's put this on here. Oops, other way. Yeah, you want the connector sliding, coming up out of there so that you can, plug it into the board, because for sure that's the way I'm going to want it. I've got enough light. One of the challenges I have getting my video looking as good as I can. Oh, okay. Is the glare from the lighting in here, and it's there we go. Okay, it's but I still can't. I don't have enough light. I still don't have enough light for me. Okay, now drink of water well, before I forget it. Go check the audio again on here. And yeah. Oh, I was looking at the monitor from an angle, and it's, you know, you can see it all right, my monitor, but definitely shows, I can see there's plenty of light in the video. I was worried about it being too dark. I didn't really have this right in front of the camera though, did I? I just had to set it the best place that was good for it. It was actually sitting in its own slots, but upside down. Okay, let me give this one more little look over. Guess I'll do it with the camera. Oh. Okay, so see, there's two slots here. Oh yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to read them or not, but those are the I believe one's primary, one's secondary, and then those are the risers. Oh, and yeah, and then there's sorry, I'm getting my magnifying glass. Primary and secondary risers. Yeah, secondary riser, that's what they have written there. That's where it would go. And primary riser right there. So that's where it was plugged in, was primary. And I think that's a 16x slot. It sure looks like it. I think you could plug something straight into it, but I don't know what in the world you could plug in there, and you wouldn't stick out, you know, the way the box is made, you wouldn't stick out the back. And it'd only be something, well, like something like, I was talking about this, I mean, that's not where you would put a RAID card over there, but I don't know, if you had some sort of little card that didn't need to be, nowadays, you know, like maybe a PCIe wireless card that all you had to do is maybe stick the antenna out the back. You know, I could conceive doing something like that. In this other one without, but this bracket that's for you to put it on would be in your way. And I wouldn't take that all apart. You might be able to take it apart without cutting it or anything. It might come off, but I wouldn't do it really. Unless I really had a good, yeah, you'd have to break it, looks to me like, to get that out of there. Anyway, I just thought of that. Man, these aren't I've kind of looked at parts here and there. They're not outrageously expensive if you wanted another riser card to order them online. If you're like me and you don't have a source for free servers like Morton does. See, oh, it goes behind so that those screws can go in there. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, and you want to make sure that you're lining up that. There we go. Oops. There. Yeah, got it in there. You got to make sure you don't break anything on that slot. And these little handles, I think they're really just for pulling it out. I thought they needed to stay standing up so they could latch in there, but they don't. You can actually see where they go. So they need to be, you pull them up to get it out. Helps you get it out easy. And then just shut them again before you put them back. Oh yeah, and you could read the instructions. Is that the instructions for that or for something else? It's for that. Yeah, so read the instructions if all else fails. But there's a little blue, it's got a spring on it. When you loosen it up, it pops out, and then you just push it in. Just a little finger thing. Another one there. Yeah, so there's 3 of them for this cage. And I'm just doing them finger tight, too. And of course, these power supplies will come out. And you can get to the SD card slot with, and you can get to the USB without taking anything apart. And you can actually, of course, you can get to the other 10 pin without taking anything else out too. But you'd have to have this cage out to put in your video card. So I wanted to show that, and I wanted to, since it's good to have a video for yourself to go back and see when you forget, inevitably forget, how things go, how they belong. But so that I had that kind of balanced over the legs of the card. So I kind of do it like that again. Okay, now I'm going to leave that like that. And dust is, I wiped it. I wiped the outside of it down real good because it really collected a lot of dust and 10 months under the bed. But you couldn't, and the funny thing is it didn't really look all that dusty, but I knew better. Started wiping it, and the next thing I looked at my paper towel, I was like, oh yeah, it's dusty. And so, but anyway, I don't remember if I've actually ran it with it under the bed, but that's my plan for right now. I've got a computer rack. I'll show you here in a second. I've got this rack that I've had for years. I've never had anything that actually needed a rack. There's some a couple of desktops and some other stuff. They're just set, and I put a board on the left. You might see the board. Piece of plywood I put in there because it's not a deep double-railed rack like regular computer racks. Just came out of a telco hotel. In 2000 I was installing equipment in telephone company central offices. This is the kind of rack they use. You can see there now how it's designed. It's not like a server rack at all, and it has shelves. I've got one more on the guards that I didn't have in it, and I took it out. I had it in that big empty space. I believe I had it right above that stuff there. And I don't remember. Or I might know I had it down in the bottom, and when I decided to put, anyway, wherever I had it, I haven't put it back in. And I could, actually, if I put this server in that rack, then I'd want to put it on a shelf, but actually I might want to put it on the bottom there on that plywood because it runs all the way back to the wall. I actually have some 2x4s in the base of this thing. Coming out the back, there's a perfect place to stick them. You see that corner down there? It's really dark down in there. They come out of the back kind of like they went in there real easily, just kind of like the way a flatbed truck, a stake bed truck, when you stick the 2x4s in those slots. It had slots kind of like that. I stuck them in there. It made a U-shaped frame. Well, I mean, square corners, not rounded. And screwed it to the wall so that it won't fall over, because this thing actually used to be 8 foot tall when I got it. That's my audio patch bay and a preamp. It's a real nice one. It's a Dynaco, but I've used it for years and years, 10 or 15 years, and it just finally got so noisy. It needs to be taken apart and cleaned real good. The contacts clean of the inside, and if that won't work, then I have to get new parts. And anyway, I had a pickup at the time, brand new 2000 pickup, and it was a short bed. In order to fit it in there, I had a camper on it, and so I didn't want water getting in there or anything. Couldn't leave the back open, and I had tools in there, and I had a bed in there up towards the cab, and so I cut the thing down short enough to fit in the back of my truck. And I was up in Oklahoma working, and a guy from another company was taking that rack out and replacing it with something different. I he had a couple of them he's taken out, and we were talking to him and my buddy, and he said, we were saying those are cool, you know, and we were both into audio, me and my friend, and I used to mix sound for bands and stuff, and I thought, well, that'd be really cool, you know. And he said, well, you want it? My friend, he was driving a car, he couldn't carry it anyway, but he said, actually, I think he said it to my friend, and he came and got me and said, hey, you want that? He'd give it away. So I had to hurry because this was a multi-story building up in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, I think it was. And the only place you had was the kind of the loading bay down in the bottom floor that had, there's a loading dock, and, you know, people ran in and out of there all day. And that's where the dumpsters were. The trash trucks would come in to get the trash, and so I got down there trying to cut that thing with the with these handheld bandsaws, and they're really good, but that's some thick steel. It's 3/16 to a quarter. 3/16 is not quarter steel. That rack is not aluminum; it's steel. And let's see. Uh-oh, I turned my. What happened? Oh, I thought I'd messed up. I was turning my camera towards my other camera. I was trying to get it pre-aimed. And I thought, well, you're just looking at a server while I'm talking to you. So, that was a pretty good guess, wasn't it? All right, so, wrong way. I never know which way to go. Okay, so, so I was trying to hurry, and some guys came in, but they were, you know, like some more guys like us, different company or something. But anyway, I was sitting there cutting that thing, and I was trying to hurry, you know, so I'm kind of flubbing up. And they were kind of having to go work around me to unload the truck and set it up on it's a loading dock, big for diesel tractor trailers, you know. It's real tall, so if you're standing on the ground, you got to do like this to set the stuff up on there. Not quite that high, maybe, but about up to here, you know. And so I said, "Oh, I'm trying to hurry," and they said, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I got it cut up and in the truck and took off about the time they were done. We had hamburgers today for supper. So I hardly ever drink. That's one of those diet drinks. I hardly ever drink that kind of stuff. I drink water and coffee. That's it, most for 99.99% of the time. But I thought, well, it's something different. But anyway, it's been sitting there a while now. It's mixed with water. And I like water better anyway, so shouldn't have messed with that. I think I still have some of my morning coffee left. It's cool, but it's better than that. I'll swap them out, so if I decide, you get that feeling, oh, I don't want something besides water. Yeah, that tastes better. It doesn't taste good, but it's better than that. Okay, and this is water. I tried to just sip it because I won't have to take a break. All right, now I got to get everything straightened out. Get my head together again. So, do I have what I need? Information I need? Yes, 10 pin. Only choice I got. Now, this is where I go to the computer. And I'll show you. And I'll review. I'm trying to figure out. I know what I kind of want, but I don't know if I really should, as far as video cards goes. And okay, so now I'm on the SM58, and boy, that mic is too hot. I think I haven't. Oh, I see. It's just that I turned that laptop sound up too much, trying to. I don't know why it was so low. It was distorting the little speakers, and I thought, oh no, and then I realized, oh yeah, I had turned it up as high as it would go. Now, I didn't know it would do that. I have extra buttons on my. I gotta turn that sound off. I forgot. Okay. Well, the reason that went black is because I accidentally hit the side buttons on my mouse. I don't know if I can get it up here. Okay, you can see this. This is a Microsoft IntelliMouse from 2001 or something. Or I'm not sure when I bought it. 2000 to 2002. One thing, the best thing Microsoft ever made, as far as I've ever used or heard about. Well, I think people like that camera that did the 3D and all that, but this shirt's wore out. Putting hanging mics on it just about pulls the neck out of it. So I've got dirt under my fingernails. My gosh, did I work? It feels more like I have something in there than well, there is something in there because I can feel it coming out, but I don't know what it really is. Dust, probably. Okay, so now I'm gonna get on the computer and I'm gonna check my sound one more time. Yeah. Now, for some reason, so far my laptop hasn't gotten hot and made me have to. Last few times I streamed, I had to reboot this thing 2 or 3 times during my stream because it kept getting so hot and making so much noise. It was making so much noise is aggravating me, and so I knew that wasn't good for it either, So just running Firefox with that preview of my stream in a small, and it's not in full screen. It's in just the default quarter screen or whatever it is. The way you've seen that page before, but. Just being on YouTube is hard on lower resource machines. All the scripts and junk they have on their site. So, let me get my bookmarks out. I'll show what, I guess I could just go to, let's see, where I want to go. Computer. See, yes, I'm on the... So that way I can look up and see that I'm showing what I think I'm showing, To computers. Computer, video, and graphics cards. Okay, now. Let's see. I don't think oh yeah, I must have reorganized them so they're in alphabetical order. That top thing is a video of that one of the ones I watched that was pretty good. HP ProLiant DL380 G7 graphics card. Can't remember whose video it was now, but which video it is. But anyway, I do remember that it was helpful. Okay, here we go. Yeah. I just remembered. Okay, now this is the one that the one I had just about decided to buy, and then I realized, well, if I do get this one, I'm going to need a cable, an extension cable long enough to reach from up there. And I thought it was 10 pin, but I knew I better make sure. If it wasn't a 10 pin connector up there, and I want to make sure this one. It's got decent reviews. It's got about 4.5. What is it? 4.3 stars. But it's XF. It's an 8 gigabyte card. XFX Radeon RX 570. And it has one. I've looked for the cards for this computer, for this server on and off since I got it. But here lately, I spent a whole day. Probably 6 or 8 hours worth of actual research on it, and on this card, and some other couple, just back and forth between it and others, but mostly on this card, trying to find out for sure if it would work in my server. I know my specs in my server. I've got all the manuals for it, and I couldn't find the specs on this card. What it tells you here in this page is 8 gigabyte. You would think, well, that's all, that's everything you really need to know, but it's not enough to know that you can power it. And if you'll notice something, I figured out. Oh, where is it? No, you have to go on their site. You see that they call it an RX 570, and the model number for the XFX brand is that right there. Oh, I need that. I'll find some other information that I have on it. So it's on sale for $139, and I'm afraid it's gone up and down since I've been looking at it since 10 months ago, you know. And there's a MSI that's the same thing, but it usually costs $10 or $20 more. But actually, I want to make sure I have a Radeon. I don't want the NVIDIA, because it generally used to be the opposite back years, you know. I'm running Fedora. I'm probably going to run Fedora 32 on it. I think I'll run the desktop, make desktop just like I have here, and then everything else I want to run on there, I'll put in VirtualBox or some other virtual machine, virtual machine manager, because and if I'm going to do that, then I want a video card. I could put a hypervisor on there and then just run everything in virtual machines, but then I would still have to be on this. I'd still be in the same shape with this old desktop that I'm using, you know, quad core with 4 gig of RAM, but everything would have to be coming to me over my network, and you know, that wouldn't be any good whatsoever, because I fired up my old anytime I get anything on the network with the newer versions, you know, like from 27 up to 28, 29, I have some Fedora 29 servers I set up. If you do remote desktop with a graphic user interface, it's all right at first, and then it starts slowing down and being really aggravating. Now, I don't know what they've done to it, but back in my Fedora 14, my old Fedora 14 machine, I didn't, I kept it because it's my favorite operating system, Linux or Windows, that I've ever had, because it had everything you could possibly imagine, and everything worked wonderfully. And I fired it up and got on it with the remote desktop, and the other day, and it I soon forgot I was on remote desktop. It works so well. This doesn't act up, doesn't get behind, doesn't lag, get video glitches. The only thing is, if you do something that's highly intensive on the video, you'll see it loads a little slow. It does do that, and you'll see little funny like squares come up on. I don't know how to explain it, like a divider, that rectangular. You'll see the video coming in slowly. So it does do that once in a while, and that's oh yeah, I'm on remote desktop. First I was like, oh no, what's wrong? So here's the reviews, and that's about the card. I was going to see if there's any more specs. There's not a lot of specs given here. Right there, usually they're on the right somewhere, but I was searching for specs, and that's how I found the manual. I didn't realize it had the manual. It's not a real manual. It's just like a quick start guide, but I didn't find that until the other day, like a day or two ago. And I've been looking at this on and off for, I think, for 10 months. Not all the time, but anyway, there's the specs of it, and there you go. The processor is actually an RX 470. So why did they call it? Why did they call it RX 570? Talk about misleading, mumbo jumbo about products. And that's the way the MSI one is too. It's labeled like that. And I thought that that was the processor. Foolishly, I thought that was the processor. This is that's the graphics processor, AMD Radeon RX 470. And so that's something to think about when you're. Of course, you're not going to get there's some that are called RX 580s and stuff. Well, they're going to have that's a 570, 470, 570. So, I can't even say it, but it's simple math, There's a few questions, and silly people putting up golden toilets for a picture. I was like, what in the world? And I thought, I looked at it because I thought, oh, somebody really had a bad experience with it. And they just said, let's see, the averages aren't fantastic, as you can see. I like it to see 75, at least 70%, because I was 69. 70, 85% 5-star, but especially with electronics, you just don't see that much much in the last couple of years. Used to, but that's one of the first things I do is go to the customer images, and this kind of thing usually it's just, oh, look how cool my build is, instead of information. But I clicked on that, and he says, oh, he gives it 5 stars, he loves it, and gets me into killing zombies. He bought it because it was recommended, and the gold toilet thing is just to get your attention. LOL. You should know. Anybody like that would end their thing with LOL. Laugh out loud. Yes, I'm laughing out loud. Okay, so anyway, I always look through here, whatever it is I'm shopping for, to see if I see things that have broken in half, or that electronics. You'll see pictures of stuff that have blown out and burned up, catastrophic. Let out the magic smoke catastrophically, and well, I don't remember what components I was looking for. Might have been a video card, or it could have been. I don't remember. I've looked at several things over the last year or so, different kinds of components. But anyway, some of them, it destroyed. They didn't just lose the part, but it destroyed their computer altogether. Just like it got struck by lightning or something, but the bad thing about every video card I've looked at, you'll see stop working after 2 months, after 7 months on that one there. The other thing, whoops, went over the top. The other thing I'll do, I've already done this, I go to the 1-star, straight to the 1-stars, and see what they have to say. And sometimes they'll say, don't get it no matter how low it is, and then if you read about it, they may have what I would consider a very good reason, or it may be because they didn't actually understand how to set up whatever the product is. So you can't just go by the little headlines people make up, because, of course, if they give it 1 star, they're upset with it. And of course, you can't believe all the 5-star ratings either. A certain percent of those are people that got the product for free. And there's nothing illegal about paying someone to write you reviews in America anyway. So a lot of companies do that. They'll pay people. I've seen people years ago when I realized that it was happening. I saw people advertising, I will write you shining reviews for so and so much money. I was like, holy crap, this is a thing now. So, and you can really see it in Amazon. Like I was looking at something the other day, and it had I don't know, like 60 reviews and all 5 stars. And I've seen it with like I was looking for security cameras, and some of these people selling security cameras would say, "I'll write us, and we'll give you a 10% or 20% discount. Email us." And so with email, I did it with one, and they said, "Oh, just write us a review." They didn't say a good review even. They just said, "Write us a review." But I saw in the reviews that people were saying, "Don't even mess with these people. I did this," and they would not stop hounding me to give them a 5-star review. It just wasn't worth it to mess with them whatsoever, Keep emailing me and spamming me. Please give us a good review. So Amazon has some rules. It's kind of weird because it's obvious that a lot of stuff is getting by the kind of things I was just talking about, but they do have rules, about reviews. Some of the rules are actually in the opposite direction, because every time I've tried to write a review, I think only once did I ever get it finished and posted, because they kept saying, you can't say this, you can't say that in the review. Or you got to put it in another section, like one thing I bought that was misrepresented in the title, and the description, and I couldn't put that in the review. And I'd seen hundreds of reviews where people did that over the years, but I couldn't do that at that time. And I even noticed after that there were still reviews coming up like that. I thought, how in the world? How did that happen? And anyway, I got so frustrated. One time I was determined. It was these headsets that I bought that it really aggravated me the way it came out. Misrepresented and wouldn't work with my phones and stuff. And anyway, I made videos of testing it and stuff, and I tried to post the videos, and you can't just link. Well, you can put links in there, but they only allow certain length of length, and I couldn't get any of my YouTube links to go in there. And I tried to upload a video, and you have to stay on that page or it will break the upload. And I tried to like open up another tab and leave it there, and then I'd forget. I was just out of it that day, and but it did use quite a bit of resources while it was uploading too. It was slowing down my browser, my machine, because like I said before, it's not real powerful. And used to be quad-core and 4 gig RAM used to be great, but they keep bloating all this. The web browsers are the worst things. They bloat them every few months, you know. So anyway, I never got it. That time I never got it. I just gave up because the combination of the uploads failing or me breaking them, and I think it was a little bit of both. And because it was like I kept trying 3 or 4 times, and it would take 20-30 minutes every time before it would have taken 30 to 45 minutes for that to upload, because it was like an hour-long video. And I don't like the videos, you know, on Amazon. The videos are they do something to the videos to make them really low quality. They like, you know, they re-encode them down to a lower quality, and you can't see if anything looks any good. The audio sounds fine, but the video's terrible on Amazon. That's why I would rather, you know, just link to YouTube or whatever. Anyway, I'm way off. Okay, so this card is what I've narrowed it down to because of the price and the specs, except I do believe it will work. There's my video I'm making. I do believe it will work. Let's see. I need to go to my documents and HP. There it is. Oh, that's general info. I've got 2 folders for HP here. Yeah, there it is, my server. Yeah, I've got the service pack quick start guide, configuring arrays, the ILO user guide, and that the ILO is the I can't remember what it stands for now, but that's the remote admin, and there's where I ordered it. Quick specs, I think the ILO user guide again. I've got them at different names, looks like, and G7 server user guide, and then the maintenance and service guide. That's the one that's got everything in it. And then there's I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, I was going to open that up. Or do I need to be in the ILO? No, not ILO. I'm not looking at ILO. I want to get that figured out. This is the section about non-hot plugging PCI riser board slot definitions. Okay, now that's what I was just showing. Okay, so here's the layout of what all these slots are. Now here's where okay, let's see if we can get this back in my head again. The secondary slot, that's where I plugged it in. The primary slot is where I took it out of. The one on the, this is talking about on the board. Okay, so and where's the definitions? They're down there. Yeah, okay. Primary denotes the risers are installed in the primary riser. Secondary denotes they're installed in the secondary riser connector. That's on the motherboard. Installing these risers listed in the table above. Installing the risers listed in the table above in either primary or secondary riser connectors determines the form factor of the PCI card supported by those risers. Okay. FH denotes full length, full height. HLFH, what? Oh, okay. HLFH denotes half length, half height. Of course, you can figure that out by looking at the back of the machine. LP denotes low profile. The PCI E2X16 riser supports a maximum power of 150 watts. That is exactly how much I finally figured out that video card draws. I think it'd be his maximum draw, I think, with an HP power cable. Now that's where I was checking in on the 10-pin connectors and seeing how far away it was from the risers, and it is right where I thought it was from my video. Well, I didn't put the camera right on the connectors. I was just showing me reaching in there in my other video. So this cable must be used for PCI card voltages greater than 75 watts. So you're good up to 75 watt cards without an external power cord, which is pretty darn cool, especially in a server. I guess that's, I don't know, I haven't bought a new video card in years, so the biggest ones I've got are 512 megabytes, and that was obviously quite a few years ago when they were brand new, and not the fastest thing out, biggest thing out, but pretty good. Let's see. Slot description example. Okay, so let's go back up here. So 4, full length, full height. This is in the secondary, and that's where I plugged it in. 5 is LP, low profile. Okay. Well, it does make a lot of difference, doesn't it, where you plug it in. And then the primary is 1 is full length, full height. 2 is half length, full height. What? Yeah, half length, full height. Oh, okay. Well, you'll know when you look at the connectors what you can plug in and what you can't. You know, like I was saying, there's only one spot on that riser card you can plug in a video, any newer video cards anyway. Plug in one of the really old ones that did fit in a half length, you know. Okay, and then a PCIe to riser slot description. I'm trying to make sure I'm in the right. How do we know which one goes with which? Well, 4. 1. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. 4, we have number 4, number 1. Oh, still confused. Primary, okay, secondary, primary. Last time I looked at this, I really thought I had it down, and now I'm tired. I wore myself out before I get started. But, okay, PCIe 2, X16 on 8, 4, and 1. Okay. See, now on the deal, it says X8. So that one thing that keeps throwing me in circles. Okay, and then and then PCIe 2, X16, 16, 8, 4, and 1. There's a lot bigger numbers here than I've seen on in the computer and the motherboard and on the riser card. So now I'm beginning to go, what? Slot description. PCIe 2, PCI X riser. PCIe 2 and then PCI X riser. X16, 64-bit, 133 megahertz. Okay. Well, I know I have a full height, full length, and then I have 2 low, I guess they are low profile. Oh, low profile is the ones that are over the power supply. I know that, because they can't be thick. And then, so I put it, it says secondary, though. Did I get it backwards in my head? I may have. I might have swapped it over to the primary, because the primary is the one I swapped it into. No, it said primary over there by the power supply. But the way it's looking in this chart, it's the opposite. Let me put my... Yeah, I swapped it in so that I can even see those if there was light in there, but I can feel them. I swapped it the way I'm going to need it. So, full height. Okay, yeah. Full height, full length, full height, half length, full height. Okay, so that's where I have it, even though it says primary up there. I wonder if that's just wrong or something. So anyway. Oh, and then PCIe. Now I'm not sure which ones of these descriptions go with. It's like everything's not in the right order to me now. Okay, so anyway, there it is. It may not be throwing you. It may be me talking, driving you crazy. Not that this chart's not throwing you in circles. So you can freeze the video and look it over. And then down here, that does help. Let's see, slot description example. Maybe that will straighten me out. PCIe X2, Gen 2, signaling rate, okay, and then X16 physical connector link width. Oh, okay, that's that long one. And then 8, 4, 2, and 1 negotiable link widths. Okay, that didn't help that much this time. Okay, so anyway, the thing I did figure out is that this machine could support what that the maximum power that this card requires. Does not tell you that 150 watts in here. What it tells you, where is it at? There it is. The the chipset AMD RX 570, 8 gigabyte DDR5. Has a dual BIOS. There's a hardware switch on it, and you can switch it between gaming and cryptocurrency mining with that switch, which be cool if you. I think that's a cool idea because some people buy them for one thing then the other. But I also saw when I was looking things up and reading about on some of those forums. I don't like the forums unless I just can't find stuff anywhere else because people, you get everything from people that have no clue to people that sound like they know everything. But if you don't already know, then you don't know how right they are, and it's very evident if you go. I hate reading forever to find out it's nothing but a bunch of differences of opinion, but you find out that the one who sounded the best the first time you read is actually the one that's wrong. If you go verify somewhere, find some. I'd rather go look at some documentation somewhere and find out. But I was having a real hard time finding out what I wanted. And the cooling. Okay, this is what I couldn't find out about. It just says minimum power supply requirement 500 watt. Well, my power supplies are 460, I think it is. But these are server power supplies, not PC power supplies. And the one thing I've learned in the last 20 years of messing with desktops and laptops, mostly desktops, power supply is usually the first thing to go. And I didn't know that back when I built my first computer in like 2002. And, I put, it's got a different power supply in it, but that one I was talking about, the one with Fedora 14, has 4 or 5 hard drives in it. I didn't realize just how much wattage just hard drives take and how much heat they make. I figured that out pretty quick. And I figured out how to, that has a 120 millimeter fan in it. And, I used to have all that stuff. Let's see. That's right. I started out, I had at least 4 hard drives in my first one I built. That's what I'm talking about. I'm getting confused. It'll be an aid for me just to show and tell instead of just try to tell. So it's not going to be a great view, but okay, I was showing that before. Okay, now those computers down there, the one on the right that has, if you can see, I don't know if we can get any more light on that. That helps a little bit. Some light on my magnifying glass. It's blue trim on it, with gold and blue, and the white DVD drive. The black underneath is not empty. It's another drive. One of them's, I think the black one's a DVD writer. The other one's a CD RW. There's a floppy down there, and that I call the Blue FIC because it was the first one I ever built, a kit. I bought at Tiger Direct. And let's go ahead and put this back. Get back on the desktop there. And that's when I was learning to build computers and whatnot. And so it was most I ever spent on one too. But I bought the whole thing new. What was it? $650, and I'm in the wrong place. $650 for that thing, and I was supposed to get like $250 off on rebates, and I'm terrible with rebates. I never sent them in, so that's what I paid for it. And it was a Pentium 4 with, I think it was 512 megabytes of RAM, and then I later upgraded it to like a gigabyte or something. Yeah, and then finally a couple of years ago when RAM finally went down to $10 a stick for that RAM, you know, DDR, just DDR RAM, I got put 2 GB in it, and it makes a big difference because I still play with it once in a while. I used to keep it with some kind of operating system on it where I could really seriously use it once in a while for things that I don't have on my main system or something like it. Well, it was Windows. I bought Windows XP Pro and joined the Microsoft System Builder team so that I'd be allowed to use that thing, and had XP Pro on it. And since then, that's what I have in my virtual machines. That same license, you know, and I don't have XP on that anymore. It's got Fedora 19 on it or something now, but I kind of set it up where I thought, well, maybe I can use it. The big thing about it, I got to where I didn't edit video. I thought I would do a lot of video editing when I first started, you know, getting onto YouTube. I mean, I was already into audio and video. Well, I started getting into recording audio on real cassette tapes when I was like 8 years old, you know. But I mean, I used to run sound for bands back in the 90s for about 12 years there, and I volunteered for 2 or 3 cable TV shows and ran camera and stuff. Learned how to run, you know, studio cameras and stuff. Had a job at the master control operator, you know. So I've always been into that stuff. So, so anyway, that machine, and so I was really there was already digital, you know, computer video editing. I already knew about it and seen a few machines. Never owned one back in the, you know, like 95 or so and up. I mean, well, there was Windows 3.1. I mean, people were doing it in Windows 3.1. Well, even at that time, using Windows 3.1, I think it was more stable and used less resources than Windows 95. But so if you saw a really built-up video editing machine, it was liable to be. If it was a Windows machine, it's liable to be running Windows 3.1.1. But anyway, that machine had a 400 or 4, yeah, I think it was a 400-watt power supply that came with it. And after 4 or 5 years, it, you know, it went out. And I put another, yeah, I think I bought another one, or I got, you know, over the years, I would get machines given to me, and sometimes if it had something part that was good that I needed, I would use it, you know. I can think of, well, how many can I think of? Trying to think of the ones that actually went out or came to me with a bad power supply. And the thing, and what it is, well, that machine, okay, if you've heard of the bad cap syndrome of the early 2000s, that was one of those machines built during that era. And but I did push, but I don't know if that was the reason it went out, because I pushed it because I had 4 hard drives in it. Didn't have a lot of memory in it. I did have a video card in it that was like 64 megabytes, but you know, it used some wattage for, well, like it was a 400-watt power supply. It wasn't like, you know, a 250 and 350 watt. But anyway, it went out after several years. And anyway, other machines. Well, I won't keep moving the cameras around. I'm pointing at machines, but my mom's machine that I bought, which has it was to the left of that one, the black one with the silver. It's not, when it's on, it's got red lights on it, and so I have an identical box right up here. That one was a dual core that I bought as a kid and built it up. It was only $250 for the whole thing. It was an AMD dual core with 1 or 2 gig of RAM. I think it was 2 gig of RAM. She ran that for years and years, but the power supply went out in it, and of all things, the switch went out, and she'd use it like once every month to 2 months, you know. And the switch went out, the power switch. And I have the identical case, and the reason I have 2 of them is because when they sent it, it has a clear plexiglass side case that cover on it, and it was cracked all the way from one end to the other. And so they, Tiger Directs, where I bought that, and they used to be real good back in those days, and they just sent me another box and said keep the other one. And so I built. I had a Gateway 1.8 gigahertz that I had gotten from someone. It was brought to me by my friend, my old neighbor, who he would do software setup and stuff like emails and junk like that, but he didn't do much hardware. And he would bring them to me when it was real hard and complicated thing, and because that's all I did all the time, you know. And so for the last 20 years now, and anyway, they decided to do. They had insurance that would pay for it on their house because it was a lightning strike, and I ended up keeping that gateway, and the box was ugly anyway. I didn't like it, so I kept the motherboard. The motherboard worked, but it had a modem that was blown out. Anyway, what motherboard is in there? Anyway, I've got 1.8 gigahertz with 2 or 3 gig of RAM in there, just 3 gig, I think, and 4 or 5 hard drives, and the power supply. Let's see, the power supply that was in there didn't go out. Other neighbor gave me a bigger one out of a Dell machine, and I put it in there. I put it in there because I was having noise in the audio. I couldn't use the audio inputs, the mic inputs on it. Never could. And those are both BioStar motherboards. I would never buy BioStar stuff again, because I tried to collect on the warranty, and they said, "Oh, your warranty's out," and I still had like 6 months left on it. They said, "Oh no, it starts when we manufacture it, not when you buy it." Never heard of that before. That lie before in my whole life. And what are you going to do? You're going to go marching over to China and make them give you your money back, you know? So I think that company's still in business. I thought they'd gone out of business for a while there, but I think they're still in business. But they don't. Anyway, I also thought it might. Well, before I tried that, clicked on it, I thought it could be the power supply. Very, very common thing, you know, noise in the power supply. So I had swapped it out, and that power supply turned out to be fine. And it's real hard to test them other than just like swap one that you think is bad out with a known good one. And so, and if that cures your problem, then, you know, because you can have your 12 volts, your 5 volts, negative 3 volts, all that. Check every voltage on there, and it'll all be good. What it is it's weak and not putting out enough amperage to run everything, you know. And I found, and some of them, and what they'll do is they'll be real wonky. They'll work and not work, work and not work, and it'll just drive you crazy trying to figure out what's wrong with your machine. So you do not want to put, and the number, you know, for the quality, of course, with everything these days, but also power supply manufacturers are so bad about it. They don't just, of course, you always need to pay attention to the peak and the constant ratings and all that, but they will flat out lie. I mean, they'll say like 50 to 100 watts more than what it could ever do. And I've seen video after video with these real good tech, you know, electrical engineers and stuff like Dave Jones and Big Clive and Jerry Ellsworth, Jerry Ellsworth. You know, she doesn't get into that kind of stuff. She's usually really into real exotic type things and old stuff that I thought was really interesting. But there's more and more and more people, you know. And you got to watch out who you watch, because a lot of, you know, on YouTube you got the same kind of thing. You got from really knowledgeable people to people that are just full of crap, just trying to get views, you know, just telling any outrageous thing that they can think of. But you got to know enough about a subject to know whether or not the person's telling you the truth, you know, with anything. So I've done over the last, I really wanted to learn about electronics, and I read and I watched videos for the last 15 years, and now my brain's got to where I can't even remember what I just read. I've had that trouble on and off in my life anyway. I found that when I was growing up, I had to have, I didn't realize it, of course you're in school and there's noise and there's crap going on. I got to have silence. Once I got older and I ended up in a room by myself in front of a computer, I had quiet, and I could read and understand things. I always knew I had good, very good reading comprehension, but I was extremely slow, like 3 or 4 times slower than most people. But once I read something, I knew it. I used to. Now it's all changing again. But I don't need noise to get distracted now. But and you can tell that my brain is scattered, because when I try to stay on the subject, I can't do it anymore. But so anyway, power supplies. I'm telling all this story to lead back up to this. Okay, so they just say only thing they told you was, and if you go to their website, which I was planning on doing that, all they say is minimum power supply requirement 500 watts here on this is of course someone selling reseller, you know, of this product. So when you go on to yeah, that's why I put that in my, so I could find, let's go by site this time. Is that it? No, that's Amazon. Here it is, the very bottom one. So this one, let me check my sound while I'm thinking about it. All right, so still got good sound and everything. So this is the first page you get to when you go to, if you know, Google search for this thing. This is their advertisement blurb on it. And there's some basic features on it right here. And it sounds good, you know. Does not say anything about whether it would work or not work on Linux, but during my previous research, I figured out that if a video card has, I knew that some would just work with no problems. They didn't have to say, you know, products that we didn't have to say anything about Linux or not, and some wouldn't. Where is that? I must have skipped it trying to go fast. This is, oh, here it is. OpenGL and OpenCL. It's got both. So that is what Linux is going to use. So it should be fine from what I gather now. Now, when you do your own independent research, because I'm like I said, I'm having trouble keeping track of everything. And here I clicked, and I did not see this until I'd been on this site. I don't know how many times. This right there. When they do it that way, I don't notice it. You know, another specifications right there. So you click on that, it brings you to another frame, or it's not another page really. The same stuff's at the top. You know, it's just another frame within that page. That's what throws me off. So I'm just going to kind of slowly go down through here. Clock speed 8 gigahertz, memory 8 gigabyte. There's your top resolution. And this is, of course, aimed at gaming, and I don't game. The reason I want a powerful video card is I might want to use it to render videos, because I wouldn't mind getting back. I have a bunch of videos I want to edit, and I haven't ever done it because my main machine, it can just barely handle it if I just go to bed and let it run, and I can't stand the heat, the noise. Even this machine is super quiet, but it's right close to me too when I go to bed, and I can hear it. And when I know something is working, I wake up. You know, I wake up a lot, and if the machine's running, I can't keep myself from going over here and looking at it. You know, what's it doing? Is it finished? You know, and I'll wear myself out and then not getting any rest. So, and it has 3 display ports. I'm not interested. I don't even have anything that uses that. I haven't learned about it. What's so great about it or anything. I can use the HDMI because I bought a 30-foot HDMI cable several years ago. I was going to run for my mom to run from her TV in her room around to her computer so she could watch stuff off the computer, but then she decided she didn't want to do that, and so I never did run it. So I still have it. See, it's even it does audio too. This is when that feature had just come out, and I went ahead and got it because I found it on a good price. DVI-D is what my monitor takes, but I have an adapter I got from my old Raspberry Pi that had an HDMI output, and it works. So I can use that long cable with my adapter to go to my monitor. My monitor does VGA and DVI-D, so that's good. And those 4 display ports will probably never get used unless I change my mind to do something different later. So if I got it, then it's something I can keep for years, and I like to do that. I like to get a good machine and keep it until it's just, I really need another one, you know. The external power, I finally found that in here. Well, I finally found this after days of researching. And I couldn't find a picture. I finally did find a picture too. I was looking for pictures, and that's actually how I found this page. when I went to it, I was like, "Oh, that's just the same page I've already seen." And then I paged on down its specs. See, I'd found a direct link to this section of the page. So pay attention. I should know that because, CPU sites and video, computer parts sites, they tend to want to build their sites like this. So, this information is here. So it's an 8-pin connector, but for the server, I need to go from 10-pin to 8-pin. And what I've seen is, well, the cable that I think would be the one, it goes from 10-pin to 2 8-pins. But the thing is, you're not going to want to hook up two things to it because the max 150 watts. This takes 150 watts. The max we can put out is 150 watts. I just reread this and like, okay, yeah, this is not per PCI slot on the riser. It's per PCI. I think it's the whole. I don't know if it's per PCI slot on the motherboard now, or is it the whole PCI 2 setup on the motherboard, period. That's what I would only consider doing to be safe. I'm not going to put two video cards in it anyway, but anyway, I've got enough, just enough to do it. And down here, and I saw this on some other pages before I got to this part right here. Anyway, it says minimum here on the manufacturer's side. It says minimum 500 watt, recommended 550. But that's still, I knew you needed to know more information than that, because what I was going into about power supplies, I didn't go into the rails and how they're divided up. Most, especially your aftermarket power supplies, some of the manufacturer power supplies that came with some of the machines I've got, they don't break it down. But if you look on the side of the power supply, there'll be a chart much like that, but it'll be about the wattages and which rails have what wattages, where they go to, and everything. And that'll tell you right quick whether or not you can power a video card or how many devices you can power. Like say if you're going to put 4 hard drives and a video card on there, then you can figure out where am I going to plug them in, and am I going to have enough wattage? And also, number one would be your power, your CPU. Like when I was talking about that machine that dual core right now is an 8-core in an ASRock motherboard, but it is actually, when that thing was built, it supported everything from dual cores to 8. That's why I bought it. It was so cool. It supported everything from dual cores to 8 cores, DDR2 and DDR3 memory. So I had it built up with a dual core with DDR2 memory, and that was the original BioStore motherboard. Now I have, I thought our motherboard had went out and I bought this ASRock. It turned out it was the switch. Always check your switches. It was the switch instead of the way it was acting. I don't want to go into how it was acting, but I thought it was an intermittent problem, and I thought it was the motherboard. Turned out to be the switch. I had a switch, put it in there, been great ever since. So I have 2 good motherboards. So right now that box has an ASRock motherboard. I bought an 8-core processor, which will work, but it's either that broke the onboard gigabit LAN, or Fedora 27 doesn't support it. I never did figure that out for sure. I just put a 100 gigabit. I had a 100 gigabit Ethernet card, put that in there and got internet on it. But we got 200 megabits down, so I don't want to leave just a 100 gigabit card in there. I bought 3 gigabit Ethernet cards thinking I would put one in there, and I didn't open it up and check it. It only has one PCIe slot, and that's the one with the video card. And the video card would have to go in. It does have 256 megabyte of onboard video, but her video card that was with that other machine was 512 megabytes, which is plenty for her. But so around in the circles ago, I thought, okay, this is not good enough. I want this to last for years for Mom. So I bought a Zeus motherboard that has a gigabit of onboard video memory. It'll support that processor, the exact same processor that I have, the 8 gigabyte AMD processor. And I have, I don't think I ever said I have 8 gigabyte of RAM that I bought already that's in that. The only reason I only got 8 is because at that time, it's way plenty for her, but it'd be enough for me right now. But that's the most you could put in that ASRock motherboard. So so that's another project I haven't gotten to yet, but I need to build that up for her. And so anyway, when that power supply went out, I never did say that 450 watt power supply went out. I went ahead and bought a 650 watt power supply, and I made sure it had, like those the processor have, it needs 90 watts for the processor. I made sure it could handle. I went and looked at processors, and I thought, what might I upgrade to? And because I had built a 6-core machine AMD for a neighbor, and so I had already went through figuring out what you needed for that. And well, we bought a kit, but I made sure that it was going to work right. You know, I mean, it is handy. That's how one of the ways that I learned was by buying kits. But actually, you can't buy big desktop kits anymore. That was one of the last years those things were even available. You go to Tiger Direct now, and all you see is micro PC boxes and laptops. You don't see big desktop kits anymore. You can buy, big desktops that they call gamers, but they're overpriced and underpowered. They're not even as powerful as the machine I've got the parts for here. I mean, you can get them, but you're going to pay $1,500, $2,000 for them, and that's just stupid. And especially, this is back to the servers, $300, 64 gig of RAM, 2 6-core processors, 12 cores hardware, and 24 with hyperthreading. Which one would you want? $300 or $1,500 for an 8-core? So, and of course, the new Ryzen processors are going to be a little faster and all that stuff. A little more. They're supposed to perform better than the AMDs I'm talking about are the ones just before Ryzen's. I forgot what they called them and all, but of course, when I bought them, that was Ryzen's already come out, so the prices were much cheaper. Well, it was still $100 for that processor. RAM wasn't too bad. I think it was like $40 for 8 gig. So here on them, I went around and around and around trying. Okay, so that's great, but I know that, and I tried looking up, like a data sheet for this video card, and it came up with nothing. I wasn't too surprised, because if you might find a data sheet for like the board that's on it, if you look, if you had it and you could look at the numbers on it, but maybe like these AMD Radeon, they may not share that kind of stuff, But so anyway, then some more of the specs on it there. The only thing that OpenCL and OpenGL, that was the things that I needed to know about them. And it seems that these companies got to where they don't want to say that they support Linux, because then they have to support it, So for a few years ago, there was more and more companies saying, yes, we support Linux, and then they quit, And, well, I think it's because they realized they'd taken on a whole nother project of supporting the drivers. Well, they didn't have Microsoft. Microsoft does support the drivers. They write the drivers. Well, no. Well, they have their own basic drivers, but then I don't know. I guess because there's just more sales for Windows machines, and they do have to write their own drivers for their products. Somebody's, they got to hire somebody to do it or whatever for Windows, but they'll do that, but they won't for Linux. They used to basically, I guess, kind of find or put up a Linux project and then hope that enough people would come along to write the code and keep it updated. That didn't work. And Linux developers that work for free, they don't want to do it for some big mega company that's making lots of money and not paying them. When if you're willing to work for free, it's for a good cause, not for a rich company to make them richer. That's not a good cause. A good cause would be if you work for them and they pay you good. So that's kind of, you don't see that a whole lot anymore. They just usually say, if you press them on it, they'll usually say, no, we don't support Linux. They'll say, you need to use an operating system that we support. So I've seen that, other people writing about it and stuff. I didn't go talk to them. Okay, so this is what you get in the package. Back to the cables. You get an 8-pin to 6-pin.
and then a 6-pin to 4-pin I was like. And until I started looking at more and more pictures and stuff, I just finally went down to doing image searches, trying to figure out maybe I can find an image of one of these cards and see the connector on it. I finally did. But that made me realize, okay, why would they give you those two particular cables? And I also saw in the pictures they're really short. They wouldn't reach, one of them, even two of them together probably wouldn't reach around there to where mine needs to go. Some people, they hook up to the Molex connectors. They'll use 1 or 2 Molex connectors. So in this case, if you're on a rail that had 150 watts on it, and I can't really imagine that just out of one Molex connector, you'd have to need like 4 of them, I would say, to get that kind of wattage. But they're giving you a cable to go from a 4-pin to a 6-pin, and then I'm thinking, I'm not sure, that 6-pin goes to this 6-pin, and then it converts it to 8-pin if that's the way you need to go. If you don't have a power supply that has either a 6-pin output or 8-pin output, like say you have if you have a 6-pin output, then this convert it to 8-pin. But you need to know. You don't just need to know I got a 500 watt power supply, because there is hundreds of variations of a 500 or a 550 as to what each rail puts out. So the rail that has the connectors on it that would go, well, in the ideal case will be using the ones that are actually made to go into a video card or some other device like that, a high power device. Then you might go from 6-pin to 8-pin. That must be the common thing. 4-pin to 6-pin, and I've seen it in the pictures now. I think you're going to burn out your power supply in no time, even if it works, or you're going to get terrible performance. The biggest problem I see people having, and I ended up reading this long forum post back and forth about this guy he installed it in his computer. He had a 500 watt power supply, but he was getting terrible problems. At first it worked okay, but then he was getting terrible problems with the video. It was just acting up and going crazy. And they started telling him, well, check your power supply. And well, I got a 500 watt power supply. And they didn't explain it to him. They just started talking about rails and math and stuff. And he just wasn't catching on. And I can see why, because, he's not living that world like they are. It's one of those gamers forums, And finally he said, well, how are you getting these numbers? I don't understand your math. Evidently, he probably understood math well enough. I'm not good at math, so I just ignore that stuff. I just look at the sticker on the side of the power supply, That's going to tell you at least what they claim. So I've learned, go by what they claim and at least subtract about 25%, and that's probably what you're really getting, what it can handle. Definitely don't look at just the max. Forget the max. Look at the constant rating. And you really should be down below that constant rating, well and good down below it, whatever percent you want to risk. You darn sure don't want to be right at the constant rating. You don't want to be right at the constant rating. You darn sure don't want to be above the constant rating. And the difference between the constant rating and the max, is for so many seconds rating. I saw a power supply sticker somewhere. I think it was on that forum where I could show it. I've got jillions of pictures of mine, but I don't take a long time to dig them out, I think. Some of mine, some that's gone out and stuff like that. But I've got some pictures of blown caps in some of my power supplies. But, there's some dimensions of it. And so that's it. So, I'm still trying to make sure if I do order this or one similar to it, that I know I can get a cable to hook it up to the server. I know you can get them, but is it going to be hard to find? Is it going to be real expensive? I found one that looks like it would work, but it does not say it goes from my exact server. And I don't. It might not plug in there. They could have changed it for all I know it's a newer model that it says. Why am I not? Oh, I see. Okay, so I don't remember what some of these pictures are. Oh, here we go. Quick start guide. It's a PDF. This was actually kind of helpful. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, it tells you good power connection, and I think it shows you a bad one. Maybe it doesn't. But anyway, connect 2 individual PCI Express 6-pin power cables to each individual connector on the graphics card. Okay, these are different. These are not just this model, but this would be a bigger card, you know, a more power-hungry card even than this one. This is one that has 2 8-pins, or 2 6-pins, maybe. Yeah, they're talking about 6 pins, so 2 6-pins. And then this one, connect an individual PCI Express 8-pin. This is what we would be dealing with this one. Directly from the power supply to each individual connector on the graphics card. Oh, it's another one with duals. Okay. This is a bad connection. Now let's see what they're saying don't do. Do not use a 6-pin Y splitter. Yeah, don't use a Y splitter. There we go. Yeah, so they've got, if your power supply, this is good advice, but they're not telling you the wattage and why. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't believe you, I'll do it anyway, you know, which that's their own, you know, stupidity, ignorance. I guess I would say ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, right? Until you blow your PSU up. So anyway, don't do that. Don't use a splitter, and that's what gave me a red flag on the splitter that I saw. It goes from 10-pin to 2 8-pins. I thought, wait a minute, that could be dangerous, and I do not want to damage my server, especially not the motherboard. You could get new power supplies. I can get. Matter of fact, I saw 2 750-watt power supplies for my server for like $26, free shipping today. Well, I could just get some bigger power supplies, but I don't want to keep adding up, you know, what I'm going to spend for no good reason. What's this other one? Okay, now this one is, just leave more, you can see them both. Oh, 2 6-pin to 1 8-pin cable converter. Don't do that. Okay. See, there's so many variables of how the power supplies are wired, what the power, and not just, okay, just because you've got a 6-pin or 8-pin does not mean in the least that it's the same wattage or amperage, you know, coming out of there. You've got to know what that rail, where that's wired to, what rail it's on, and then what that rail puts out. It turns into a mess, you know. So here's a quick install guide, and it's real basic about how to put the card in. But that is helpful. It helped me nail down that I better pay serious attention. I'm just clicking on the links that I have now to see. Oh, the part picker. So there's this same one at different places, you know, 139 to 198. So that's kind of a helpful site sometimes. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it doesn't show you any of the good prices. Let's see. That's the same card. I just reordered them in a different order. And Google Shopping. I don't see. These are some of my searches I did. This is on this specific model that I'm looking at right now, not just, you know, the RX. I mean, it's not just, I can't say what I'm trying to say, but RX 57D, well, that's a 4 gigabyte one there. Oh, has good pics. Let's see, now this is just on another site. But yeah, I remember it had good pictures. I think this is where I found the pictures. So this is the card on Newegg. Pictures of it, more angles. And there's the display ports, the HDMI, and the DVI-D. And there is a DVI-D and a DVI-I. So you can't just say if it's DVI, it'll work for me. If you have a monitor with a DVI input, because you may have a DVI-D or a DVI-I. I learned that early on when I bought my monitor years ago. Pretty had a while now. There it is. Finally, a picture of the doggone connector. That was before I ever found those specs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I finally knew there's one. See, now that thing never showed a card like this. It never showed a card with a single 8-pin connector. So it was throwing me around and around and around. that's why I'm making this video, try to show what I discovered between days and hours of research, just to try to figure out whether or not this one silly card, or well, this one or the MSI brand, well, they may be a little different, would work in my machine. And of course, putting a card in a server is quite a bit different, but it's actually not all that, well, it is different than putting it it's different than putting it in a desktop machine, but it's actually easier because your server has all your specs. If you just learn how to look up the manuals, there's all the specs you need right there. How much power it will put out on that PCI, and how much you can run without an external cable, right there. And that, like, I went around in circles with that, but the last 2-3 times I looked at that, I thought I understand it perfectly. I think my brain's just tired today. So, oops, I shouldn't have done it that way. Let's see. Oops. There. I want to get back to that one that I was looking at. It's the same price, but it's for $4.49 shipping. I don't really care for Newegg too much. There's always gotchas on that site, and sometimes there's a good return policy, and sometimes it's terrible. You really have to pay attention to who you're buying from on there. Okay, there's Amazon again. And I get aggravated with Amazon too, but they generally, them and Walmart, they're pretty good about, if you do get something bad, they'll take it back. And with free shipping, you know. You got to watch that. Sometimes that's not, depending on the seller too, you know, there. But, yeah, okay, what I was wanting to know is, let's see. Here's what I wanted. That'll get you, I probably ought to go with, well, that doesn't matter. I'm going to say the RS, but instead of that exact model, then I've got a lot more things I've found. And I think there's, that forum post. That was one of the other thing. Let's see. That's it right there. What else have we got? I think we got pretty much the same links now. But that, I think that might have been in the stuff I was looking at, and I skipped it. Oh, I don't know what all that is. This is a pretty good site, but the forum posts, I guess they have forum posts and articles or something, because usually when I go to this site, it's an article written by somebody that's knowledgeable, or a couple of people that are. But somebody, they said, this is the guy I've been talking about. I'm looking to get some help here. I think this is it. I'll just read a little bit of it. And he's got a Dell Inspiron, Windows 10, i5 CPU, probably something like what I'm running. He has 16 gig of RAM instead of 4, though. 3 monitors, 9 terabyte of storage. He added this card, and so on and so forth. But it's a nightmare. He got the latest driver, worked okay for a few days, but then it started going. He's not a gamer. See, he wants to do kind of what I'm doing, Adobe Premiere encoder. Yeah, I couldn't remember when I saw that. Is that a Adobe Premiere? I think it's a video editing app. Yeah, because he's running an encoder. I'm into the open source stuff, so I don't pay attention to Adobe at all. Okay, yeah, here's what it looked like, and this is where the kind of thing you'd get with an underpowered or a bad power supply. Random letters, numbers, and characters, all the crazy stuff like that. When you get that kind of bad video, you've either got hardware failing, like your power supply, or your video card. And of course, he thought, well, is it my video card? Did I get a bad one? Or you're running out of RAM. I don't think he's running out of RAM. He's got 16 gig. But I imagine he's in code. He's trying. I don't know if it says it in here, but I can tell he's trying to use what I was thinking about doing, trying to use the GPU, the video card, Yeah, as accelerator says it right there. I just skipped over it. He's wanting to use it to do his encoding because they can encode faster than the CPU and RAM can. But if you've got 64 gig of RAM, you may be just as well off using. And you've got 24 cores like I do on my server now. You may not do better with this card. I don't know. I haven't ever got to do this kind of thing before. I only had one time in I guess it was Kdenlive. That's what I used, where I had a video card that would it would actually see and use it for encoding, but it was only a 512 megabyte. It wasn't big enough, bad enough card. It didn't help. It didn't help do any better than the GPU. I mean the CPU. And after 2 days, it got worse. Massive graphical glitches. Let's see. Things disappear and reappear. The typical. It sounds like your video memory is full. I've had that problem. Like this machine I'm using right here, it has 256 megabyte of video memory. If you start using any kind of thing with just watching YouTube used to do it. I think they must have improved it because it doesn't do it. Oddly enough, it uses up too much RAM now. Some of these unruly scripts, and will lock up my computer sometimes. But I don't have the problem with the video memory getting full and the cache fills up. The video cache fills up the video memory. It doesn't. I don't really have that problem anymore. Oh, it might not be Firefox. It may be that Fedora has fixed that up. Linux is really good about managing memory in general. And I never had a problem with video memory in Linux and with my 512 megabyte real video cards. But when I stepped down to this i5 i5 was faster than the other processors. All other processors were dual core. This is a quad core. And I have 4 gig of memory, and the most I ever had before was 3 gig. But I had dedicated video cards always, and they were only 512 megabytes. Well, it's the same card, really. Yeah, that one. I've only got that. My mom has one, and I have one. Before that, I had a 64 megabyte on my old machine. I was showing that blue one. So anyway, this just sounds like to me like typical video memory being filled up. But it could also be if your power supply can't support the video, and that's the thing. Every time I read about this card or any big card like this 8 gig card, first thing people that you can tell. I mean, I know. So they're saying your power supply. How big is it? Exactly what is it? And so I'm not going to go read every bit of this. He goes on and on. And he's making good sense. He's just, you can tell the guy knows his software. And this is the stupid stuff that always comes up on here. I hate sites that play videos. At least it's not making noise. They don't have it. It's muted. But I guess they figured that out. I don't want to see people I'm looking for something else. I don't want to see 3 people waving their hands and talking to each other. That's what I'm doing right now. So, do you have, people start asking him questions, okay. Do you have UEFI BIOS? That's what Morton calls it, UEFI. I always tried to remember the letters and I never could get them right. And then he says, have you tried DDU? I have no idea what that is. It's for installing and, of course, that's for Windows. So I thought that was interesting, but I don't do Windows, so wouldn't help me anyway. To make sure, there's other programs I use. Can't think of the names of them. The one I really like for completely uninstalling and cleaning up after any application drivers or software, regular software or whatever. And then they ask him what the exact make and model. And then when he answers back, he's really having a little trouble believing sometimes, but usually just quite understanding what they're saying. But some of it, he did say, he'd never heard of DDU, but he'll try it and all that stuff. Or I say it could be a girl. I have no idea. Rush Fanny. Never paid any attention to who that. And which one's Rush Fanny? I don't usually even, yeah. Okay, this is the person asking the question. It really does say Rush Fanny. Well, I kept thinking, I considered this to be a guy. I figured it was a guy by the way they write. You can often tell if it's a girl or a guy just by the way they write things out. But anyway, Rush Fanny, whichever, if it's a girl or a guy, I don't know. He says it's got UEFI BIOS, upgraded Windows, which might have been. I thought, well, that might be a problem right there. Every time Windows, as one thing I know about Windows 10, every other time it gets an update, it breaks things. But the one thing I have done is help somebody install Windows 10 because an update broke their system, a brand new system, brand new to them system. They bought a used laptop, refurbished laptop with Windows 10 on it, and they updated it a week or two later, and boom, it was broke. Wouldn't boot. Duh. I guess I don't know if it's a blue screen of death or a black screen, but it's one of those screens. Oh, they're saying you didn't tell us what your PSU is. This person does not get how important the power supply is, PSU is. And they say, look, open the case and look. We need the 12-volt rail amperage. This is what I've just been talking about, you know. And I didn't even go to these. Oh, did I go to that link? There's Tom's Heart, another Tom's Heart. No, I didn't go to it. So, oh, it's a how to do install graphics cards. Oh, using DDU. Oh, I see. Well, that's Windows. That's why I didn't go to it. So anyway, yeah, DDU. I would if I was running Windows. And this is minimum power supply 500. And they said, well, that machine has a 300-watt power supply. And let's see. Oh, someone else said that, I guess. You need to get a new PSU. Some of this, I read almost everything in here, so I'm kind of skipping the ones that either don't seem to, that I don't remember reading. The power supply that he has is one of the worst, and this is very true. It seemed like this person didn't appreciate that, but it's not 500 watt. And that's what I was just saying a while ago. And the perfect, you know, it's constant rating. They're saying is 384. It's called a 5, and they'll market it as a 500 watt power supply. That would be the absolute max it could do for 1 second, a half a second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes, whatever. You know, you're running this big old graphics card, and it's going to need plenty of power. And at this time, I did not know what its power. That's what I wanted to know is how I know what's on my power rail. How much does it actually take to run this thing? It ain't going to take 500 watts. I knew that. And obviously, you know, because you wouldn't be able to run your processor or your hard drives or anything else on your system if you had a 500 watt total power supply in your computer. So, but I did know that my total on my server power supplies is 460, and they don't both run at the same time. I was trying to figure out if one gets overwhelmed, will the other one kick in and help? But that's not how it's designed. It is a redundant. It's the only one of them's going to be on, and if it fails, the other one will come on. That's how servers generally do. I think that's how most all servers work. So anyway, but the one thing different about this power supply, I didn't think. I don't think it has PSU in there, but I think if you just look for watt, you'll see it. Maybe not. Okay. Oh. This is the only way I can find things is to use the search functions on wherever you're at. If you can hit Control F and bring up the search menu, the find in this page. It's the find in this page menu, either in the browser or in most applications. It's just invaluable because look at how many pages. This has got hundreds of pages. It's great, but it will wear you out. So if you know, looking, you know, you'd spend days. That's why I didn't spill it out. There. Power supply. Okay, that's about the RAID card. I could see that. Okay, now these come with 1200 watt power supplies. They come with some 50 watt power supplies, which, like I said, I saw some 460. I've got the 460s. And the input voltage, input frequency, input current, which is amps, and rated input power, BTUs, how much heat it puts out. Oh, I got to keep going. Okay, 750, 460. How plug power supply. Oh, here we go. I just didn't go down one more little deal. Rated steady rate power output. 460 at 100 volts to 120 volts input. 460 at 200 to 240 volts input. Maximum 460. So it can run at its stated size. 460 watts what it is rated, called, that's what's labeled, and it can do 460 watts. And of course, servers are well-built machines. They'll last. Well, they get way outdated. It'd be long before they ever wear. I mean, things will break on them, and I've learned more and more about what might break or might not from watching mostly Morton's videos. But of course, I already knew. Everybody would. If you know anything about the concept of a server, they're built to last. They're important. They got to keep on working always. So, I just by that I kind of thought, okay, they're saying 500 watt. I know these PC power supplies are not anywhere. Can't actually put out anywhere near what they're rated at, what they label them. So I thought I'm probably good, but I still wanted to know for sure. And and it's kind of funny because I can get around this thing by doing that. I can just do power supply and watt, and I can get back to my two places that I'm interested in right now. That's just for these two particular subjects. And they say, so they're telling them, look, your power supply is not 500 watts. So that's probably your problem. GPU, they even go and tell you GPU needs your GPU, the graphics processor. I always get my brain twisted about that. Minimum 500 watt, you should buy a quality, reliable PSU, but they don't go into any details. And they don't. For somebody finally does go into some details, but I can understand why the guy didn't get what they were saying. He didn't understand, and I think it was kind of like they're not proving it to him because they're not really giving him enough information. And obviously he didn't know, or he or she didn't know all this stuff. They just admitted that, And he kept going back and saying, okay, so this and this, but what about this? What about that? And he just said, okay, so should I buy? Oh, that's somebody else. Yeah. So it's too hard to find everything again in here. Okay, and he was not understanding, where are you getting all these numbers and how are you figuring this out? And finally somebody says, go to the photos. I don't know. I didn't see a new egg link. Maybe I skipped it, but oh, there it is. We'll go to it. I didn't go to it last time. Oh, this is his power supply that he has. Yeah, I didn't go to that. So the photo 5, 12 volt equals 32 amps, 304. And they were telling him, he was saying, where are you getting your math? What's the deal here? And he says 12 volt equals 32 amps, and then they were, I can't remember those equations. They're not big equations, but I can't remember how to do the math. I just look at the labels. But so that's how they got to the 384 watts. And then he said, and of course whatever brand it is, they don't like this brand. There's, of course, well, and it says 3 stars. And there was something the guy asking the question said, well, he says, I don't pay attention that much to the ratings. I pay attention to the specs. Well, that's why we have people actually rating things, because people lie about specs. And nobody ever said that in this whole thing. Maybe they thought it was obvious and they just didn't say it, or wanted to be, maybe they didn't want to start a firestorm by talking about that sort of thing, but it's out of stock. It was $36. Yeah, 500 watt power supply for $36. Well, these days you can't really get a good one for that. I can kind of say that after buying a few of myself, brand new, over the years. But let's try to see where the okay, there's some listings right there. 20 amps on the 3.3, 20 amps on the 5, 12 volts, 32 amps, 12 volts at half an amp, and 5 volts at 2.5 amps. Now let's see those pictures. I never did go look at these. And I agree with one thing. I don't go by brands. Just because it's some well-loved brand of something doesn't mean it's going to be much better. If you find something, I've always done that. I've always done it on and off. But ever since the whole computer with ratings, you know, buying things online, I used to sell stuff online. Before that got to be a thing, you know, the ratings and people rating stuff. But well, it was just beginning, I guess. But anyway, I've always been a spec person, not a brand name person. And used to, you could believe specs for the most part, but you can't anymore. So now I use specs and ratings. You know, if I don't see 4 stars minimum, I don't buy it unless I'm desperate for, can't find it somewhere else. So, and I like to see. Well, okay, there's the connectors it has. I think it might be a modular where you plug in the cables to it. But there we go. Here's this picture. I don't know if we can make that. Yeah, we can make it bigger. Control plus to zoom in, control minus to zoom out. That's what you can do that on pictures and text in the web browser. So here's a typical sticker. Okay, rated power 500 watts, AC input 120 to 240 volts, 10 amps. Which would be a standard household circuit, you know. Actually, 240 volts is usually more amps than that, but at least it is in America. Our 240 volt circuits are usually 25 to 50 amps. I think over there in Europe, where their standard voltage is 240, it might not necessarily need to be that big because it's, you know, regular household gear, just higher voltage. But anyway, max output current. 3 volts is 20 amps. 5 volts is 20 amps. 12 volts is 32 amps. And that's what they were doing. They were converting the amps to watts because that's what number the company gives you. See, they make it hard to figure it out. That's, for one thing, they should tell you you need so many volts, you know, or actually you're going to like 2 to 4 12-volt wires and then some grounds and maybe a data wire or two. In that connector, that 8-pin connector, and all they need to tell you is how many amps you need to go down that wire. You know, instead of the total output of your power supply is going to be, just because you have, like I said, you have a 500 watt power supply or a 550 watt power supply does not mean you're going to have the amperage and or the wattage. You know, I like to go by amperage. It's much clearer, much easier to understand. But sellers want to go by wattage because it makes it harder to figure it out, I guess. You know, they'll usually always list watts on things like this. Now, tools and things like that, they'll give you the amps. But negative, and see, there's negative 12 volt, there's negative 3, negative, I don't know if there's negative 5, I can't remember. Anyway, then on the negative 12 volts, it's 0.5 amp. On the plus 5 volt, SB. That's a new one to me. I thought it said US. For a minute, I thought it was going to be USB. It might be USB. 5 volt. It might be, it shortened it instead of saying USB. 2.5 amp. That would be the max. That might be, that sounds about right for a USB output, the max of it. On a newer power supply, the older ones would be like 1 amp. I know that just from, you know, using my USB devices. And if you know how long, you know, they'll tell you how long does it take to charge at so many amps. That's how I kind of figured that out. Mine are no more than an amp. I can tell you that, anything I've got. They take the longest amount of time. And if I plug it into a full 1 amp charger, they'll charge faster. If I plug it into a 2 amp charger, it'll charge a lot faster. Now, max combined wattage, 100 watt on the 3.3 and 5 volt rail. That's a rail. And then 348, that's what those guys are telling him on the 12 volt rail. That is the one that's going to power the GPU, the video card. So they're telling him, okay, they're telling you need a minimum of 500 watts to, you know, on that rail. That's what they're telling you, really. I mean, that's not what they're telling you, but the guys that are telling him, okay, you're underpowered, this is why they're saying that, and they're right. And then on the negative, you just don't have to worry about the negative voltages. I mean, I don't even know which things use it and which things don't. It's usually sensors and stuff, not the power to your devices. So you don't have to worry about that really. And then total output 500 watts. So when these guys tell him his power supply really only puts out 348 watts at a constant power, this is why they say that, and it's right there on the label for that power supply. That's how come they jumped right in and said that. It took me a bit to figure that out. I was wondering, where are you getting your calculations? I thought they were just pulling them out of thin air. And I was like, well, wait a minute. You need to know what's on each rail. And then finally I read one of these comments, I guess this comment here. So that's a typical thing. Now here's some connectors. See, I don't have well, yes I do. I've got one this new. But I don't have one that has double. I think I have one that'll go 4 or 6, but not 8 pins or anything. But anyway, this one has got the connectors, but not the poop to do the job. So that's funny. I'm just going over this because it's the easiest way I can figure out how to just illustrate what I'm trying to explain and what I went through the last few days, trying to figure out, can my server's PSUs power this thing? No, yeah, I wouldn't say they were telling him your power supply is not a good. They see 3 stars and they didn't say it's not. He didn't say it was garbage. He said it's not a good PSU, and I would agree after looking at that page. Of course, he might have bought it somewhere else, or well, I think that's where he bought it. He said he bought it, but I think he's the one that gave him the link. But and he did, like I said, he did say something about, well, I don't just pay so much attention to the ratings. So that's where he's getting in trouble, because there's a reason for those ratings. When you have all 5 stars, there's something wrong. There's an absence of honest opinions, because most people that aren't getting paid or getting free products, they're only going to write a review when they have something negative to say, because they're pissed and they won't take time to do it, So you got to remember that factor. So he wouldn't say his was garbage. I remember that. I always worked fine for him for 5 years. Yeah, but he never pushed it. That's the thing he's not quite catching on to. The power issues certainly be a problem here. Yeah, okay. But he's been arguing with them the whole time. Sort of. Not really, but kind of. Pertaining to the amount of power max sent through the various plugs. Yeah. Oh, where did you say? See, I'm just now getting down to that part. Where did you get that? Well, it was on the sticker. And somebody said it is made just to support what came in that kit. Or I don't know if he built a kit or bought that power supply makes me think he bought the way it looked, the kind that it looks like. It had to be some kind of either a kit PC that he built or some kind of gamer quasi-game, like the gamer ones you get these days. They call it a gamer PC, and it's not even that great, a bargain gamer PC or something. And then finally, and he says the pictures show it, tells you what, and explains it. Yeah, and modern PCs, that's a good point. Modern PCs mostly use 12 volts now. They don't. I don't know about that. The motherboard I don't know. I don't have anything. Well, I got that as Zeus, but I haven't put it together. But my AS Rock that has the 8-core on it. I mean, it still has all the the 3.5 and the 5 volt connections hooked up, and it depends on what some devices use a combination. Like all the things you plug into on the board, it'll have a 212 volts, a 5 volt, 2 5 volts, or whatever. It may have and if you see a negative one thrown in there, that's probably a sensor wire. But when they're labeled, you can tell that. But some of them aren't labeled. But well, if you learn the colors, different manufacturers use different colors. But if you learn the colors of your particular brand, then you'll know what color is doing what voltage, plus positive, negative. Yellow is always 12 volts. It's almost always 12 volts plus positive 12 volts. Red is usually plus 5. I think I have seen some blue plus 5s. And because I learned that several years ago, I learned a lot about that. And of course, I forget it when you don't mess with it. But I built me what I call my power supply amp. I have 2 car amps in an old PC box and 2 power PSUs in there to power them. That's my amplifier, my audio amplifier for in here. And it's been great. It's super quiet. Never, sometimes it'll start making a buzz, and it's always because of something that's plugged into it and is putting the buzz into it. But and so I guess that's him coming back and asking him. Oh yeah, the quote and then his question. So he's like, "Oh, okay. So you're saying my power supply's not strong enough?" And so that's what we've been saying. It's more than one person asking him back. So he really is. He's not catching on, or he's just arguing. He just can't believe it, Served him well in the past. I guess this person has no concept of jumping up. Well, it's not all his fault because the manufacturer does not put out. I tried for hours the other day to find how much does this thing actually use? This video card here. How many watts, how many amps, whatever does it use? Oh, and here's where somebody finally explained how to do the math to get to the 348 watts. So 12 volt times 32 amps. Oh, there it is. It's a simple thing. I just never can remember it. 12 volts times 32 amps gives you the 348 watts. And that's what that was the total of what that thing could put out. That's the max. Well, that's what that rail can put out. That's where they were getting what that rail can put out. But it also turns out to be the maximum constant. Well, that sticker said 3484 is the maximum constant. So I guess they weren't saying that rail. That's the maximum constant output of all rails. That's what the sticker said, I think. Or was I looking at that rail? See, now it's confused. You can get confused on it quick. And that's what I've been saying. It's not really a 500 watt power supply. And there's the picture. Finally put it up for him. Yeah, so I had seen that. So anyway, they go on and on explaining it to him about how they figured it out. Then he says, okay. I don't know what that's about, but oh, he put up a link. I guess this is the link. I'm not sure. You got to pay attention to who's doing the talking, I guess. Yeah, this is not him. This is someone else. So this one here, I didn't go to it, I don't think. .uk. Well, I never thought about it, but the guy that they're talking to might be in the UK. Oh yeah, I think I did go to this. It's not. This is a 2019 post, but this power supply is no longer sold anyway. But he was asking about a 650 watt, which is that's the minimum I would personally go to for this card of pretty much any brand, unless you could get a hold of something. Well, it depends. I was going to say a Dell, and the reason I was going to say that, Dell has their ups and downs over the years, but the power supply that was given to me that's in it's a 400 or a 450 watt. I think it's a 400 watt. You can even just tell, it's built like a tank. But this was, I don't know how old it was even. I don't think it was very old when I got it, so I got it 4 or 5 years ago. Never gave me a bit of trouble, still works great. Not noisy or anything. But it looks way, okay, I've got it. Well, the box that I built my power supply amp in, it's an old Dell. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a Dell Celeron. It was slowest dog ever, a barely minimum power supply that could run that thing. I couldn't add any hard drives or anything to it without overdoing, would have burned it up. I figured that out by looking at its spec. And one year we got a lightning hit that killed killed that thing. That's why it's a box available to build something else into and killed several other electronic things. But yeah, so he asked about that power supply, and of course it's not even available anymore. Wonder if there's anything available. They have a bunch listed. Yeah, that one. This is in euros, so I guess I hadn't even thought about it. I don't know that I actually go to there. So they do still have this brand. Oh, that's a Corsair. Yeah, that's a popular brand. And a lot of times, unless they're on sale, they're overpriced for the specs that you get. In my opinion. But this would be gamers would like this. So I don't know. He might have figured that out. That he already knew that that's probably the kind of thing they were going to direct him to. I think he went and found out. I don't think they. Wait a minute. Quality is always better than quantity. You don't need 1,000 watts. No, you wouldn't need 1,000 watts. One of 550 or 600 watt can do. And I would say what he's trying to run, I would not. And knowing that, I don't care what brand it is, they're not going to do what their top specs say. So if you get a 650 watt, you're going to be doing good to run at 600 watts. You really need to stay around 550, 575 to be safe. Especially with if you're going to do encoding, you're going to be running that card at a hard clip for 8 hours to 2 or 3 days if you're doing a big long video. So of course the gamers are going to play for a couple hours to 8 hours, however long. I mean, you've heard this, I played for 12 hours or 18 hours or something. So they might do that sometimes, but you're going to do that you're going to do long, most of the time if you're encoding a video, unless you're doing super short 10-minute clips, that's short videos these days to me. If you're going to do short clips, then yeah, you won't be using it as much. But if he's using Adobe Premiere, then he's probably going to be doing. It takes a long time. He's probably doing high quality, high resolution videos, maybe 4K. If you're doing 4K video, if you're doing a 30-minute video, you're going to be going all day and all night, unless. Especially I gathered. I didn't pay any attention, but I gathered. What's a quad core? It's an i5. It's not even an i7, so there you go. I don't know if it's a quad core or what, but i5s can be quad cores, or they can be. I think they can even be dual cores. Yeah, I think they can. i5s can be dual cores, quad cores, and maybe even 6 cores. I'm not sure. No, I don't think 6 cores. I think you got to go up to i7 to be a 6 core. I've got almost all Intel in my server. They're Intel Xeon processors. But I started getting into AMDs when that prices went down. I'd always liked them and wanted AMDs, but they used to be the fastest and the most expensive, and they swapped a few years ago. And I didn't get one until the Raisins. I got the older one when the Raisins came out. The Raisins came out. Any photos from the link? Oh, frankly, I'm not buying just on reviews. I'm looking for something cheap that supplies the power I need. And I guarantee you, go look at the reviews on those popular brands. They will have just as about as many. Go look at the same specs, basically close to the same specs, and go get some brand you never heard of, and get a brand that. That's one of these name brands considered to be a name brand. You will have just as many 1 stars failed after 2 months as you will on either brand. But there's always those brands like the one that he had that has 3 stars or 2 stars that like 50% of them fail, or something. Definitely stay away from those. But like I said, when I'm shopping on generally Amazon or Walmart, but Amazon has more reviews to go by. I just click on the 4 stars and up. I never consider things under 4 stars. So, but you can still have 4 stars, but you may have the percentage. You may have a lot more 1 stars and a lot. You might have. Well, you can have you can have anywhere 40% 5 stars. You can have 70% 5 stars. So, I always pay attention to that. How many percent? You still have 4 stars, but how many percent are 5-star reviews, or at least 4-star reviews? how many 1-star reviews do you get? If you get a whole lot of those, then, and if it turns out that the product failed or blew up, especially electronics blew up, ruined somebody's computers, then I don't care how many stars it has, I'm not getting it. You know? Let's see. So, yeah, he doesn't just go on reviews. So he's finally catching on. I think it's power related. So, is the 12-volt 8-pin I need for the GPU? Does the others seem like it will go? Do the trick. A PVA signature, bronze, certified. Now, there's all these colors. I never paid any attention until I felt like it does supposed to mean something. I still think it's a bunch of crap, but the different colors are supposed to be how bronze certified or gold or whatever. It's supposed to be how clean the power is, how much the voltage fluctuates, and that can be depending on what it is you're running. Say audio, especially. It would, if it's not clean, then it will make noise in your audio and things like that. Okay, so here's one. Oh, he was looking at this 900 watt, $59, probably more than that back then. And it has 4 stars. Well, you can do that and see right there, 68%, and then 16% 1 star. So it's got plenty of people really gonna like it, you know. So I'd be a little bit leery of that one. If it had 75%, 71 even, if it had 70% or 68%, but it had only 5% 1 stars, then I wouldn't be too afraid of it, you know. But when you start getting, well, you can tell. What did I do? I clicked on the wrong thing. Ratings. The first thing I do is go down there and look at that, and then I look at the pictures. And if I see pictures of burned up electronics, they're talking about the specs, yeah. I think they're saying that the specs are not good. I'm not going to read. I'm just going on and on too long with all this. But see, 20 amp, 20 amp, 66 amp. But the combined power is 792. That isn't anywhere near total. They say combined. Then they say total power 900 watts. Okay, there's something funky there because they didn't say constant power 792 watts and total power 900 watts. They're doing some funky math there is what I'm going to say. I'm not even going to try to figure it out, but I've never seen one like that. But it should say constant power so-and-so and total power output or whatever. So, yeah, there's something tricky there. And that's one of the perfect examples, most likely. I'm not going to say for sure because I'm not researching it all the way, of an unscrupulous manufacturer. And that's a picture of their sticker, so it's not, you know, all on the seller. Unscrupulous manufacturer is trying to slide things by you. Just like these counterfeit, you know, electronics parts. If you ever get it, go and look up counterfeit electronics parts, even if you're not into electronics parts. And I've seen videos by some of these engineer guys that I like to watch, like Dave, I call him Super Dave now. Can't think, Davy Jones, Super Davy Jones. And he used to do a lot of videos like that, and I imagine he still does. And some other people, good, you know, like engineers and stuff, like on I like the hackaday.com website. And I have engineers on there that'll write articles and make videos. They'll say, okay, now tell me which one looks like the counterfeit and which one looks real. And half the time, the one that looks the best is actually the counterfeit. You know, in the best writing and looks like they took care in putting the writing on it and all that stuff. Turns out to be the counterfeit. It's got to where you can't really tell by looking at them anymore unless you really, really, really know. And you you're an engineer and an assembler, and you've seen so many of those, you know. So it's really hard to buy good electronic components. Even when you go on, if you go on Mouser and Element 14, what's the name of their? I wrote a few articles and got free products. I got. I'm trying to look around. Oh yeah, I got TI launch pads and Fram board, MSP 430. The launch pads have wireless things in them. I still have not made projects out of those, so I wanted to. But in return for writing reviews, and I also did videos on the second set I did. So did I get 3 things from them or 4 projects? You know, I mean, things that I wrote articles on years ago, 10 years ago now. That was at the beginning of that program, and then now there's like so many engineers doing it that I'm not smart enough to compete with them. But anyway, I know how the get a free product to write a review thing works, but that's a pretty good company. They don't press you to try to make their product look good. They really do want honest reviews, because these are new products that aren't released yet, or they're just been released. Either that or they've just been released, and they want you to tell your honest opinion, because they want to get the bugs out, make it look good, work good, sound good for their launch. Generally it's ahead of the launch, and they want to launch it as good as they want it to be really successful. It's completely the opposite of the way the disc, the super cheap, I would say Chinese, but there's plenty of other countries and that do this counterfeiting and all that. And just crappy, like the bad caps that came from, they didn't all come from China. In fact, I think most of them came from Indonesia or somewhere. But those are the only 2 countries I always remember. Of course, Japan, everybody, but Japan. See, I'm old. And I remember when America made electronics, and they made the best electronics in the world. We had invented things that nobody else knew how to make. Some of these people in the government, and some of them were business people, up to make lots of money. We had trade rules. We didn't trade with China, and we didn't, and it was smart because they could undersell us. Now look what they've done to everybody's economy around the world. And they undersold us with crap products. Now you don't have manufacturing hardly at all in America, And I grew up, we had all that, And then Japan, they weren't the electronics manufacturer of the world when I was young, even when I was a young adult. It started happening when did they? I remember I was like 17 to 25, I don't even remember now, somewhere in there, when I heard about them, and I knew it was wrong from the instant I heard it. There's a bunch of senators or whatever, I don't remember the people and what positions they had. They made a deal to where they would sell the plans to a bunch of our electronics to Japan to help them out. It was come back from, they put it in under the thing like, oh, well, and this is, I'm not trying to lighten the war or the atom bomb or anything, but they put it under that. And the thing is, they weren't trying to help out Japan. They were making lots and lots and lots of money. Japan back then was more like China. They had cheap labor. And they said, I seen this guy on TV making a speech. Oh, well, they'll never completely comprehend this. We're just giving them enough plants so they can build them. They will never know how to, I don't know if he used these words, but they will never figure out how to reverse engineer this. They can't make this stuff on their own without us. They'll never be able to do that. They're not as smart as we are. And I thought, pride before the fall, you complete, I won't say all the words. And of course, now that's history. Japan is the only place in the world where people think good electronics were ever made. They didn't invent the stuff they're still making today. The concept, a whole lot of it we invented. Of course, they went on. They moved on. They're extremely smart people. They're very everybody else nowadays, how dedicated they are and hardworking. It's in their culture, people around the world are very similar, though. We kind of know that. We know that now, but we may look a lot different, but we work pretty, in our minds work quite a lot alike. There are a lot of things in our upbringing and environment that change, we think differently about things. But I'm talking about working, making, building, intelligence, learning, math. If you're you're great, you know, one thing you have, the reason I loved electronics, but I never did go to school for it because it's all about the math, and I'm terrible at math. And so, you know, Japanese, Chinese, American, whatever place you're born, if you're good at math, you're good at math. That's it, you know. And if you want to do it, you can do it. If you're like me, then I was always good at mechanical things, working with my hands, understanding things. And then as I got older and I had health problems, I had to learn something else. Well, it turned out to be the one thing I didn't think I could do, and it's computers. When I was in high school, they had a job fair, and a guy brought a PC in 1975. And I knew how to type because I'd taken typing classes. I just thought my mom was a secretary, and I thought it was amazing how fast she could do it. She had an Underwood typewriter, and I used to type. I kind of pecked around on it, but once I took typing in 7th grade, I could type, but I was extremely slow and made a lot of mistakes. But when this guy came with the computer, and nobody was looking at his booth. They had all these booths, you know, there's tables with stuff set up on them. No actual booths, you know. And nobody was going over there, and I love, you know, electronics and mechanical things, always have. So they were trying to get us to come to their schools, you know, after we graduated. We were seniors. And so I went over there to look at it, and I also kind of felt sorry for him that nobody was, oh, great, look at that. My camera has gone to night vision. It's set to automatically go to night vision after dark, well, of course. Because it's normally pointed out the window as a security camera. So we'll have to do something different. Okay, there we go. So, kind of hard to look over there. I can see that preview in that thinking the wall is so wide I can't look at it. I'm not used to looking at a camera. Anyway, I can't help it when my thing don't look. My shot isn't framed the way I like it. It bugs the heck out of me. Like there's anything great to look at, junk and me. So I don't know if that's better or not, but it seems less distracting. I didn't like seeing so much at the door. So anyway, I went over there, and I said, well, I know I couldn't really do this because I already knew that you had to learn commands, you know, and all that. It was just DOS. That's all there was. There was no Windows on there. And but I said, I know where to put, and I knew where my home keys were, and I kind of looked at that keyboard, and okay, tell me what to do. And he told me, he said, well, you can do this. Of course, he was trying to encourage everybody, but so I typed a few commands, and it did what he told me, and I did okay. You know, I don't remember. Anyway, he said, oh, you can learn this. You'd be good at this, you know. And he said, it's a common thing. I'm telling you. He was right. 1975, I had a man just a little old. You know, I was 18. He was 25, maybe 30. I think he was somewhere between, 25 or younger. He was saying, I'm telling you, this is the common thing, you know. And I said, and I knew he was right. I'd heard enough about it. And I said, well, I know you're right, but I want to be an auto mechanic. I wanted to be the next Big Daddy Don Garlitz. I was a famous drag racer, and I wanted to build race cars and hot rods and race and have my own garage, you know. And never got to do that. I did build some hot rods and stuff like that of my own, you know, but not big shot hot rods like I dreamed of, you know. But I had a 70 SS Chevelle that I beat the crap out of and pulled the motor out of and put it in my 64 panel truck and sold the body. Be worth about $100,000 right now if I still had that. But you know, I knew it would be worth money one day, but I never dreamed it'd be worth that kind of money. I always knew that old cars was going to be worth more money because 32 coupes were out of my range by the time I was, 16 years old. But anyway, and I remembered when they were really cheap, when I was a little kid. By the time I got to be 16 and started driving, well, there was one. I actually had a fantastic, going off telling stories, fantastic chance. One of the kids in my same grade, he He had one. It was his dad's, and his dad was giving it to him, but he didn't like it. And I had a 64 Chevelle that my mom's friend had put a 350 in it for me. 350 and a 2-speed Power Glide automatic transmission. And he liked it. And he wanted to trade me that 32 coupe with I think it had a 283 in it, which I didn't know back then. I thought 350s, I like big blocks. First I got the 350, and then I realized big blocks were better. I was into big blocks from when I was 16, like 73 on. And I later on got big blocks, went to big blocks. But everybody was into 350s. And people, some of the older kids were into 383s because that was the big motor for them. But they weren't as powerful. 350s were generally, you could get a stock 350 and it would be faster than 283, except if you had one that was a high-performance 283. So I didn't really realize how many high-performance 283s had been built until really recent, last 20 years, when you can look everything up on the internet, and find out all this history. Anyway, the guy, back to the computers, that was kind of cool because once I got over there and typed a few commands that he told me to type, they were like, "What is that?" And they wanted to see it. So I got up and, it brought about ended up being about 10 kids come over looking at it. So that was cool. But would have been cooler, I suppose, if I'd have listened to him. He wanted me to go, it was TSTI, Texas State Technical Institute. I think that's where he was from, but he was a computer school. I wanted to go. They also had it on a mechanics school. I wanted to go to that. And never did get to do any of that because I fell madly in love with a girl and got married. She was with me. We were together there at that little thing. She was 3 years, about 2.5, 3 years younger than me, but she was, I don't know. I don't know, maybe it was even after. I was only going half a day in my senior year, the whole senior year. I just took what classes I had to have to graduate. And she was 3 years younger than me, so I don't know why she was there. It was during school, I think. Yeah, it was during school hours. Anyway, she was with me, and other people had their friends or girlfriends or whatever with them. Their moms. No, I don't think anybody's mom was there. But, and I have thought of that on and off all these years. When I was, in the late 80s, I started thinking about, was thinking about changing careers, and I thought about getting in. I knew somebody that was relative's husband, I thought somebody that had went to school back when, he's just a couple of years older than me, and he had went to school for it, and he was a hardware repairman, computer repairman. And for years and years, that was real good money. But then about that time when I started thinking, maybe I should try to get into that, because I started thinking, I just didn't think I could do it because it was seemed super complicated and technical, and I thought you had to learn a lot. You did, to pass those classes, you had to do a lot of math. I don't care if it was computers, it was math. I don't care if all you're doing is plugging and unplugging hardware. Well, you did need to know back then, you really needed, like I'm talking about these power supplies and all this stuff, you needed to know the math to figure out things like that, power supplies and what parts you could put in and what you couldn't. And you did need to know some math. You needed to understand electricity. And of course, I learned it on the job. I started learning it, and it turned out to not be as hard as I thought. You don't actually have to do the math to learn how to work with it, But when I was 18 years old, I did. Who knew, And I didn't. So anyway, by the late 80s, I guess it was about the mid to late 80s. He was laid off for years. I think he finally had to get a new career. But in the early 90s, I had a friend who had a Windows 3.1 computer with Windows 3.1 on it, and I got on it and learned and immediately taught myself how to use the word processor and make spreadsheets. And I didn't really make spreadsheets like to figure out. I didn't know how to put formulas in, but I knew how. He made a phone book. I used a spreadsheet to make a phone book, and there was a template in Microsoft Works for that. But I just figured it out by sitting down and reading the screen and doing it. And I already knew how to type, like I said, and so I could use the word processor. And I used to write my resume on a typewriter for years, even way before, it wasn't, people didn't, somebody that worked with their hands, they thought it was just wild that somebody would have a resume, but I did it. And some people thought it was crazy and didn't even want to read it. And then sometimes people would hire me because they thought, okay, this guy's not only can work with his hands, but he has a brain in his head too, So, and some companies want you to write reports and stuff. I really didn't ever have I was a cabinet maker and a tool maker at General Dynamics back then. It's now Lockheed, owned by Lockheed. It was we were building F-16s, and we still did maintenance on F-111s. And so I was kind of all the way from about 79. Let's see. Well, I did started getting into cabinets in 70. When I was 18, I ended up getting a job, and they trained me to do maintenance on gas stations and car washes and stuff like that. Building, installing, I learned all kinds of cool stuff. Hard work, but I liked it. Driving around town in the truck and fixing stuff, I liked that a lot. But then they didn't pay much, so that was in Wichita Falls. I came back home, had 2 or 3 kids by that time, one on the way, I think, or fixing to have one on the way. And then I got a job in the cabinet shop, and I always liked woodworking ever since I was a kid, but I never got to learn much of it. So I learned. Of course, you do the same thing over and over. I didn't get to learn all the different things I wanted to learn, but worked in the cabinet shop for about 3 years, and then I got a job at GD. Then I got laid off, back to the cabinet shop, back at the GD. I ended up with 13 years, I think, total at GD, and I don't know how many years, cabinet shop, 5 years, 8 years, I'm not even sure anymore, back and forth. And then after that, in the early 90s, I'd really begin to get into, well, my health had been getting, from 83 on, it started getting a little worse. Early 90s, it was so bad that I couldn't keep, when you got a job like that, or for like any job, you got to be there every day. You miss a couple of days, and, back then, if you missed 3 days in a year, you were already in real trouble. You couldn't be going missing, and I was really having trouble having to go to the doctor. So anyway, and plus I wanted to do audio and video and stuff, so I ended up learning how to, I got on the computers, but that's all I did in the early 90s. And then all through the 90s, I'd mix sound for bands. I learned to run professional video cameras and stuff, but I never made any money at that. I barely ever made much money at all mixing sound. Mostly I'd volunteered on the weekends and stuff. And that camera's doing that blinking again, and when the light gets a certain way, it can't stay. I took it out of the automatic before I started this video. I did hours and hours of testing and setup. I got the colors pretty close to the same on both cameras, as close as I could get it. And but it wasn't, when the sun was out, it wasn't flickering like that. It's the auto white balance it's doing that. So I guess I can try putting it. I guess I'll try again. Oh, it won't make any difference on the USB. No matter what changes you make in that, it does not affect the USB outputs. That wouldn't help. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that except for maybe move the camera. I think moving it further away helps, but that's exactly the distance I wanted at. Anyway, fixing to have to take a break. How long have I been doing? Oh, almost 3 hours. I guess I'll take a break and come back. What's the difference, going on and on. So anyway, got back into computers in 1998. That's when I actually got into computers. And I've been on a computer dang near every day, all day since then, and love them. And learned so much I've learned about hardware and software and everything. So I'll come back, and I'm not done going on about all this, but I have got to have a break. So I'll try to come back here in a little bit after I have a break. All right.